All right. What's up, y'all? This is Josh here. Leo is out of action. He had a family emergency thing he had to handle, so you guys are stuck with me. But to replace Leo for today, we were gonna have three, but now we got two, and just because it gives us more time to yap, we got the great Jayson Braddock here, everybody. But before we get into everything, let's kind of run down who Jayson is. Most of y'all know Jayson already, but he's the NFL AFC South cover uh, uh, writer for Dr. Roto. He's puts out stuff on the big lead SportsGrid. Previously was on ESPN 97.5, SportsTalk 790, Sporting News, Roto Experts, everything on the sun. And you guys, if you guys follow him on Twitter, he puts out some of the more thoughtful, interesting analysis, especially during draft time. If you guys want to see kind of an unadulterated, less groupthink kind of a perspective to prospects, you guys should check him out. But he's taken that, and we're gonna bring that in today. We're gonna do our big mock draft. Let me see. I'll put up this banner if I can do it without there. Good lord. All right, come on now. Sorry, the technical oh, there we go. Beautiful. Got it. All right. So we're working on today. We're gonna jump into the Texans blueprint for the draft, kind of get into the mind of DeMeco. We're gonna do our own 7-round mock draft. Running through. We did it last week with kind of a different simulator. It was kind of weird the way the board fell, but it was still cool to talk about it. Just me and this time we're gonna pick Jason's brain of kind of what he thinks is going to happen, what he would do, kind of in between, kind of what are the different options, trading up, trading down, all the different things. But I think first of all, what we got to do before anything, make sure y'all smash the like, subscribe to 713 Live. If you guys can go on Twitter, follow Jayson, check out all of his stuff. And that's about it. If you guys want to watch, you guys can watch the replay. It'll be posted up on the page. Every week we're on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And that's about it. So this just kind of hop right into it. We're working on this before we jump into the mock draft. I felt like it was a good idea to kind of jump in to the needs first, and kind of I'll jump off with for this like. And I know people can talk about needs as like there's just so many and there's so few and what are the things, but more realistically and from your perspective, what do you think that they will target in the draft as kind of their top needs or the things that they are focusing on?
Yeah, I would say center right off is the biggest need. Obviously, you probably don't go center first round. We can get a little bit more into that later. I think offensive line, they went and did some good things in free agency as far as going out there, getting those stopgap veteran guys that should be able to solidify at least that first line of the offensive line for 2026. But there was more insurance moves where you want to bring in some younger guys that can be that offensive line of the future. It's really where you need to rebuild. Defensive end, you need that third guy that can come in behind Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter as well. Rotate in. We know the Texans rotate heavily along their defensive line, so get a guy that can step in there. And also, if he has the talent, you go early enough in this draft to get one, most likely in the first 3 rounds, you get a guy that can replace Daniil Hunter after the 2027 season as well. Defensive tackle, they don't have the big names on the defensive line. They do have talent with Tommy Togiai, Sheldon Rankins, Logan Hall added this offseason. But being able to up that room and get a top tier talent, the Texans, I think since they took Lewis Nix in 2014, they only took one defensive tackle in the first 75 picks since 2014. So they really haven't put young talent with upside at that defensive tackle position. You can always look to add that cornerback position. You can never have too many corners. Linebacker with the Z's, Alshire still hasn't gotten an extension. Henry To'oTo'o's last year of his contract. So you can go at either one of those spots there. On the offensive side, it's a deep tight end class. There's a multitude of guys you can find throughout the draft. I think the 3rd through 5th round is really the sweet spot for the tight end position. You also want to get a running back in this draft, more than likely you're looking at day 3 to add to that running back position. And the wild card would be that wide receiver position. A lot of people saying, well, you used 2 picks on Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel last year. You still got Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell's coming back, Nico Collins coming back. But you don't want to go into it and just bet on the upside of Higgins and Noel. You don't want to go into it, bet that Nico Collins is finally healthy for a full 17 regular season games. And you don't want to bet on Tank Dell returning to form. So if you don't add that free agent wide receiver after the draft, and they didn't before the draft, then you could look at that wide receiver position to really solidify that group.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a really great in depth. I'll keep it very short and simple for me. It's 3 kind of buckets for me. One, I 100% agree. I've been banging the drum, yelling from the rooftop that you got to bring that next guy in, that next dude, so you can fully optimize Will, and preferably it's someone on the edge that can be like a Keldrick Falk or be like a Zion Young, someone big physical player that can do a lot of the dirty work and allow you to weaponize Will Anderson in a real like kind of Charles throwback name, but Charles Haley kind of role where you can move him
Nice.
around and kind of attack. Yeah, but and then for me, the on the offensive side, the other flashing thing is the offensive line is still pretty damn old. Like other than
Right.
Ed Ingram, who's 26, 27, and Ursary, who's a pup that's on the uptick, everyone else is like on borrowed time. So I think you really have to be a situation where you come in, you add 1 or 2 pieces, and I don't think you necessarily have to do 2 or 3 in the first 2 days of the pick, but I think you could really see them go 2 or 3, maybe 4, not 4, but maybe 2 or 3 guys on day 3 where they're guys that are kind of the traits, guys that they have time to develop, but they all have kind of starter upside. They may be way back in terms of like when they're ready and everything. I think center, you're absolutely correct, is a position you have to locate, and I have a little different kind of perspective on center. I'm sure I'm curious kind of where we'll get into that in a second. That's a little bit of a tease. But I think you brought it up in the thing that jumps out to me, and you see it on defensive side at linebacker, even at safety. It's really too deep of guys you really trust at safety. And then at corner as well, it's like the top tier guys, starters are absolute killers, dogs, whatever term you wanted. They swarm like a MFer, but you got to
Sure.
have that next phase of guys coming in. Like EJ Speed isn't going to do it for you in the long term. So you got to have a guy that can compete. The guy that you were hoping Christian Harris was, you got to bring an athletic guy that you really project as a potential Mike. Because if you lose Aziz, you're in some deep shit kind of during the year. You can plug it up for a little bit, but it's the same thing with the defensive line. You got to have that next guy that has that upside that you were hoping kind of different guys that could come in like Dylan Horton. You were hoping he was a swing that he was gonna kind of upswing, and maybe he will like long term. But someone where you keep bringing in young talent. But offensively, the quiet need, the really silent thing you mentioned receiver. I kind of look at it as a bigger bucket of just overall explosion on offense. Big
Mhm.
playability. We've got Nico and then we've got everyone else. Noel, if they actually decide to use him that way, can be that way. But whether it's receiver, a guy that has return ability, so that you can use Noel as a receiver and you don't have to worry about double dipping,
Right.
or tight end, someone that has legit vertical stretch ability up the middle, or running back that's got true home run ability. Now, running back, this is one of the worst running back classes in a long time. Allegedly, like one NFL team had 6 draftable
I
guys.
saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, you heard that. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
crazy, but you got to find a way. Like, there's still guys with explosion. I know. Well, you got one guy coming out that you love talking about, and we'll get into that. That'll be potentially one of uh the Braddock. What did I call it? The Braddock
The
specials
sleepers?
on.
Oh, specials. Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. On day 3, that kind of. But yeah, so I'm in similar thing. I think it's really sneaky that if the receiver drops in their lap in day 2, people might freak out. But man, it could really pay long term value if it's the right player.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, as you can tell behind me, I've kind of threw together a little of a big board. Just what I did here is with so much talk about the Texans possibly trading up, I put 20 to 35 because I think the Cowboys at 20, with them having 2 picks, always made sense for that second of their 2 picks. They got 12, they've got 20. That 20 could make sense, and you get in front of teams like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia Chargers, Philadelphia, Cleveland, San Francisco, all those teams that could take offensive line depending on who's available there. Then we heard just a little bit before we went live that the Texans have been making calls around to see if they're able to trade up, and they've been targeting the middle of the first round. So there you're looking at another team with 2 picks, right slap dab in the middle at number 16. Jets have the number 2 pick. They have the number 16 pick. If you can get up to 16, it really opens up most of the board and your mind just kind of goes wild. Now with Nick Caserio and this coming out before the draft that, hey, he's looking to trade up, hey, he's looking to trade back. We also have to be cautious of it's just Nick Caserio gauging all of his different options so he's prepared. We know Nick Caserio brain's kind of like a fast processing computer. In the NFL, the first round of the NFL draft has gone from 10 minutes to 8 minutes to pick. So to be proactive and go ahead and get out there and consider all the different options instead of just waiting on the clock like, okay, guys, what do we do? Now let's start calling guys. He's already doing the groundwork. Does this mean he'll go up to the middle of the draft? It's an option. Does it mean he'll trade back? That's an option. Does he pick at 28? A lot of it's going to depend on how the board's falling early. If they don't trade up to like 16, 20, even 15. I like Tampa Bay at 15 because throughout this entire process, a lot of people's been mocking them edges. And you've got a couple guys early like David Bailey, Arvell Reese, and Ruben Bain. But I think all of those are gone before 15. So then what people have been doing is they're like, hey, maybe Keldrick Falk at 15, Akeem Mesidor. The different names in here recently, Malachi Lawrence has gotten pushed up. So it feels like there's a little bit of reach there. But at the end of the first round, there's a multitude of options at edge. So 15 somewhere I would look at as well for the Bucs if they want to trade back. The Texans want to get up. And we'll get into it as we start the simulator as far as options that could be there if you go up to 15 or 16. As you can tell, I got a couple. You mentioned buckets, Josh. Got a couple buckets here, picks 20 to 35. I put this together before all the talk came about and moving up to the middle of the first round. Feel like pick 20 is probably the most likely, but we can consider a lot of these guys around 15 to 35 as well. So trading back, a lot of talks about Arizona at 34. You got the Jets at 33. If one of those teams want to come up for Ty Simpson, a quarterback there to get up to 28, you still got enough options here. So we can look at guys as we go through the simulator that may be available from 20 to 35 or 15 to 35. Next bucket, we got 36 to 50. Texans pick at 38. Maybe they trade back into that mid 50 range. And I put 36 to 50 because Nick Caserio has killed the draft one pick in from 33 to 50. If he's taken a pick in that second round in the top 50, it's usually a home run pick for him. And so that's a sweet spot there. We got some different options there we'll go through. And apologies if the writing's a little bit small. It's just kind of give you a picture. We'll race names as they come off on the mock draft simulator. Then I got 51 to 90. Texans pick at 59 and 69. Close enough, only 10 picks apart. So a lot of these options that don't get selected, they could still be options at 69. And at 59 and 69, I also think these are great spots for the Texans to trade back. I think you get to that 80 to 90 range, center makes a lot of sense right in that 80 to 90 range. So we're keeping our options there. Then you got 91 to 150. So basically more towards the end or second half of the third round on to the beginning of the fifth round. And then after that, 151 to Mr. Relevant, 257. This draft, we've heard so much throughout this process about how people's evaluations are all over the board, unlike anything I've seen before. And so you're going to have a little bit here in this first bucket where guys have this tackle higher than this tackle, this edge over him and all that. But once we get past the third round, these boards are going to be all over the place. So we're going to lump in that fifth bucket, 151 to 257, because some guy's going to have a fifth round pick graded as a seventh and vice versa. They'll have a seventh as a fifth. So we'll look at names. And once we start getting there in the fifth through seventh round, beggars can't be choosers. When you get that late into the draft, especially in a more narrow draft later on, in this 2020 2026 draft class, you got to find the best options there. So maybe we double dip in here. Maybe there's a defensive tackle, we take one early, but then later on, best player available is a defensive tackle. You don't want to get cute and say, well, we've already taken defensive tackle, even though we got him 50 spots ahead of our next guy. Let's go to the next one because we already took defensive tackle. So that's a little bit of just behind the way the board works. My board is going to be have a lot more options because I don't work for the Texans. I've got a feel like most Texans fans around here, or those that follow the Houston Texans and cover them, have a feel for what the Texans typically like, but without being in the interviews and knowing the character issues, the health, what they think about them and all that. My board's going to be a little thicker. Nick Caserio usually has a tight board, typically has about 15 guys with a true first round grade. This year, I wouldn't be surprised if that's closer to 12 guys. So maybe that's why there's some truth to them moving up to the middle of the first round. Let's say Tampa Bay at 15, Jets at 16. And then if they do that and you got 12 guys with a true first round grade, you're hoping for one of those guys to fall to 15 or 16 that you have a true first round grade on, Josh.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the thing we got to trace it back to that gives us the ultimate flexibility was the Laramie Tunsil trade, and us giving that second round pick really frees up the pick that I've circled in terms of draft fodder that can get you up to 19 range, and maybe you throw in a future fourth or something and get you higher is that pick 69, and that's kind of the thing that we've seen kind of thrown around in a lot of these mock trades and things that like legit people are kind of throwing out there. Like there's a reason Nick they're mocking Nick of moving around up and down, and I think he's probably consistently the most active guy and GM in terms of mock drafts.
And it makes it more fun for all of us. I mean, I love not being able to pinpoint it. What's he going to do? Put out smoke screen, keep everybody guessing, and maximize the guys that you want to. With that in mind, you see I got 3 guys circled here: Vega Yawani, Omar Cooper Jr., Dylan Thieneman. And you might say, well, that's not a need. That's not a need. Again, if you're talking about trading up to the middle of the first round, these are the 3 guys that really stick out to me. Obviously, those aren't the only options, but we're going off of the highest grades. And then with Vega Ioane, highest grade at a position of need. Then I think Vega's a guy that goes between 10 and 15. If you're getting up there to 15, 16, you keep your fingers crossed he's available, and that's the no-brainer if you are trading up to the middle. But we'll get more into detail of all these guys as the simulator process is through with me and Josh. I'll cross off some names on the board. So even though I've got them in this bucket, guys are going to fall. Just like tomorrow night in the actual draft, you're going to have guys, how's this guy still available? Or how'd that guy go so high? So we might cross them off, but there might be 2 or 3 names left out off of this first bucket when we get to pick 38. And so we'll look at this as well, weigh it with the options here, plus along with the picks we've already selected at certain positions.
Perfect. All right. And with that note, it's time to jump in to see Brandon, we see you. Frank, we see you. It's great. Glad y'all are hanging with us. We're about to take off and jump into this and get all crazy mock draft on this. All right.
Let's do it. Let's have some fun with this.
Let's do it. All right. See if I can make sure I don't screw up the stream by trying to share the screen. All right. Let's see. All right. Share. I don't need audio. All right. Cool. We got everything set up, and let me go. Where's the full screen option? Beautiful. All right. And Texans are selected. 7 rounds. Slow. PFF
Let's
board.
do 7 rounds of the Houston Texans mock draft. We're going to get into it. We're going to process it slowly so we can erase names off the board as they go, and also throw in a little bit of color as we go through some of these guys we're considering. Josh, love to get some guys as they come off as far as like, oh, man, that's really a guy I wanted to kind of consider there whether they move up or not.
Absolutely. All right. So, here we go. Let's get it rolling. And we're going. All right, Mendoza. No, no doubt that's going to happen. Surprise of Ruben Bain going second.
Right. I think that's a David Bailey pick or Arvell Reese there. Sonny Style going
Oh,
fourth. I think those first four picks probably going to be David Bailey, Arvell Reese, and Jeremiah Love. And even if it's not that specific order, I think we see those four as those top four guys. And maybe a Sonny Style sneaks in there. I don't think it'll be Ruben Bain Jr. So there'll be some different options, but I think those are the top four guys in this draft.
yeah, I agree. All right, let's keep it going. Let's see. And David Bailey, so that's part of that bucket. Carnell Tate is in that second tier of bucket for me.
And they're saying the Giants really like Jordan Tyson, where they could even consider him as early as 5, or I
Right.
hope he falls to 10.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's really fascinating. The other team I enjoy watching. I'm from New Orleans originally, so I'm a recovering and Saints fan. It's kind of always a road, similar to the Texans. But
Right.
yeah,
And
I've seen the phase up and down of his stock and everything. That's been really
Manoa kind
fascinating.
of surprises me there. I figured they could go with the Jordan Tyson. There's a couple different options there, but Manoa, we've heard the reports that he's dealing with the compressed disc in the back. When you're talking about a
Hmm.
big mauler type like that I wouldn't be surprised if we see him fall out of the top 10. And we've seen him mocked as high as the third pick in this draft to Arizona. We've seen him sixth to Cleveland a lot. But if I had to go out there and I was betting on it, I would say Manoa falls out of the top 10. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's not the first offensive lineman taken, whether that's Vega Ioane or if it's Spencer Fano.
Yeah, yeah. The more I'm hearing it, the more that's coming out. Like last bit is it's funny how like the time is a circle because Fano's back now, kind of up near the top, and ever since
Right.
the increase in his arm length miraculously in
And
this
that
pro
happened
day
for a lot of
measurement.
people at this combine. A lot of people,
Right.
excuse me, we saw it with Ruben Bain Jr. as well. Cassius Howe, from what I heard, he had an increase there. So something needed. I mean, he's still undersized as far as arm length, but instead of talking, 30 and 1/8, 30 and 1/4, he's closer to 31-inch arm length, but there hasn't been a lot of coverage for that. But this year was kind of weird at the combine where a lot of these guys' arm lengths came out shorter, almost up to an inch shorter than they did at their pro day.
Yeah, and it's interesting to me, like how far down. What are your? I assume you I guess his nickname is Cece.
Malnoy, yeah.
Francis Maagwa. How far down would it be before you were? This assuming our medicals. We're the Texans and we like the medicals. How far down before you would be comfortable moving up for him?
Yeah, so if you're going Malinois for the Texans and they sign off, I trust the Texans with the medicals because what did we see? Everyone's like number one cornerback in the draft a couple years ago, Sauce Gardner, and then after that you have to get comfortable, go with Derek Stingley Jr. But Texas said no. They checked him out on the medical, hit a home run pick, took Derek Stingley Jr. ahead of Sauce Gardner, and that has been just a great move by him. They weren't scared off by the injury where everybody was cautious with it, and it's worked out like a charm. So with that and other decisions they've made as far as that, they trust their medical staff. I trust their medical staff. So with Malinois, I think he's definitely in consideration if he's available and the rumors are true that the Texans are going to move up there somewhere around 15, 16, middle of the first round.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I agree. I was curious what your thoughts were because I love him. I think he would be the perfect pick for the Texans if somehow we could finesse it and move up to get him. All right, let's keep going. Let's see. There's Fano going 9. This is where
Yeah,
you're
this
gonna
is
see
where
the
you could
run.
absolutely.
Yep.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Jeremiah Love at 5 for the Giants makes a lot of sense as well if he gets past 3 and 4. Now,
Yeah,
this
I
is
don't.
we're starting to get Dylan Thieneman. That's going to be our first guy off the board. A lot of people are going to say, well, you don't need a safety. You signed Reed Blankenship, but I got him as a trade up candidate just because I think he can play free safety. He can play strong safety. You want him back in coverage. You want him up in the line. He's one of the cleanest prospects, and you could take his on-field workouts at the combine. It's teach tape. It was just a thing of beauty. Absolutely love this guy. He's off the board there at 13 to the Rams. So we'll take him off one of the trade up candidates. But now we're looking at where we're hearing Texans may trade up to the middle of the first round. 14 with Baltimore is a key area because a lot of people have mocked them throughout this process, Josh, as you know, for Vega Ioane. So if Vega's still on the board going in the 15, Texans trade up the 15. Let's say in this mock it plays out like this, Vega Ioane's the pick. That's my firm belief on it. I think you go Vega Ioane. Yes, you brought in Wyatt Teller, guaranteed money, even though it's a 2-year deal, runs out after the first year. Wyatt hasn't played the same the last couple of years as he has for his career. You increase your pass protection, which both your guards, that's an area they struggle. They are run maulers with Vega Ioane. If this plays out like this and the Texans do make that leap up to 15, you can go ahead and get that guy that can plug in there, play right away, and looks like a 10-year stud for you.
No, I agree. I mean, if you can, he's kind of in that top tier of guys that you would pretty much trade. Like once he gets out, I agree. If he gets past Baltimore or even, above Baltimore, if you really feel, if they have every confidence in him medically and I haven't heard anything medically, but he's the top tier guy in terms of offensive line that would be just plug and play and really, really push Wyatt Teller right away. I agree. Let's see where he actually ends up going. It was funny that you have that strong feeling about Thieneman because he was available in the last mock we did, and we argued back and forth. I think we went with Proctor instead, because we were just like, man, it's too good to be true to get a high upside offensive lineman that can play guard and tackle, and a guy that does have a lot of.
I think his floor is 19. Yeah, I think his floor is 19. So it's a guy you'd have to trade up for. Don't know if that's something they would do. I just think he's just such a clean prospect. We talk about 12 guys. Vega Ioane's, if Caserio does have 12 guys with a true first-round grade. You move up to 15 here, I think you're getting a guy that could possibly be one of those 12 guys that Caserio has a true first-round grade. So you come out of this draft, added in that difference maker in a weaker class. Thieneman, I just love the prospect. Think he's clean. Yes, Texans don't have the biggest need after Blankenship, Kalen Bullock. The secondary is covered. But if you're talking about going for talent and you've got most of the roster secured, Thieneman is definitely a guy I just want to mention on that board there. But yeah, let's see how it keeps going, Josh.
Absolutely. All right, let's see. So Freeland going interesting ahead of it. There's Ione.
And see, they're 16, 17. This is why if the Texans are looking to move up to the middle, you want to get ahead of Detroit. We've seen Caden Proctor. We've seen Monroe Freeland. We've seen Max Ahanator. All these offensive tackles, there's going to be a run in the first round. And I've said at least 8 offensive linemen go in the first round. Here, since we got closer to the draft, they're now saying 9, possibly 10 offensive linemen because there's a huge fall off after that first round in tackles. So all these guys are going to get pushed up. One of the reasons the Texans could move up into the first half of the first round is to get ahead of Detroit and have your pick. Here, Monroe Freeland goes off a couple picks before Detroit, but at 17, you're still looking at a Max Ahanator. You're looking at Caden Proctor. And a lot of people like Blake Miller. I've got a second-round grade on him, but I do think he goes in the first round. Just for the simple fact that it's a fall off into where you're really not looking at the tackle options until day 3 after these first-round guys.
No, I agree. All right, let's keep it rocking. All right, let's see who Detroit goes. They went Sadiq instead, that'll be interesting. Messidor is a guy that I would be interested if he fell to 28. Let's see, Makai Lemon. Avion Terrell, that's kind of high. I think he's probably a second-round guy. Omar Cooper, I know you had him on your board, right?
Yeah, Omar Cooper was on the board. That was another one of the trade up options. I know we talked about that. Texans just took 2 wide receivers in the second and third round last year. Why would they really go wide receiver again? They've got 3 guys under contract for next season: Jaden Higgins, Nico Collins, Jalen Noel. They're thin at that position after this year. Does Tank Dell bounce back? Does Jalen Noel and Higgins take a step forward? Does Nico finally stay healthy? So to get a multitude of different options, Omar Cooper Jr., if you're trading up to that middle of the first round, he's still on the board. That's another wild card there with a couple of other guys we mentioned. A lot of people like Kenyon Sadiq. I'm not as high on Kenyon Sadiq. I don't think he's a top 15 pick like we've seen with the last couple tight end classes, Brock Bowers, Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren. I've got him more towards the late end of the first round. But and it's a deep tight end class. You can basically get guys whatever skill set you want. Pick your poison on these guys. Sadiq wouldn't be the guy I would trade up for. Depending who's on the board at 28, he's a guy I would have considered, but we've taken him off the board now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the best way I like this to describe Omar Cooper to people is he kind of reminds me of Jarvis Landry with a jetpack on. So it's just
What
kind of like it's some interesting kind of dynamic of the things that we could really use in the offense. If we had conviction and decided we wanted to move up, or if he, I mean, there's a chance he drops to 28. There's a chance that he's there with kind of all the trench kind of frenzy that's going to be going on.
Yeah, the key word I would say with Omar Cooper Jr. and a wide receiver we'll start talking about in the later second, third round as well, Yak. The Texans struggled with Yak. They need a guy that can get those yards after catch. Reason Deebo Samuels, even though he's not the same guy from a couple years ago in San Francisco, even last year in a down year, he's still rated as one of the top guys in yards after catch. Omar Cooper Jr. So you're not just adding a wide receiver here, you're adding a wide receiver with a different skill set, one of those guys that can improve an area of your offense, being able to get those yards after catch. He's off the board, so we've got some other options later on in the second round we'll get to here as well. Let's see how it plays out. This is another
Yeah.
spot for offensive line that they could
Oh,
go. But
Keldrick
they go with
Falk.
Keldrick Falk. Let me take him off the board because that's another guy that could be a possible trade-up option as well. Nico loved Eric Armstead. They had Eric Armstead, DeForest Buckner,
Hmm.
excuse me, when he was in San Francisco. Armstead went around the middle of the first round, 17. I expect Keldrick Falk. Keldrick Falk didn't have the production. Only 20 years old. Crazy stat here. Keldrick Falk will be Akeem Mesidor's age after he finishes his entire 5 years of his rookie contract. He would be the age that Akeem Mesidor is now. That's just
Right.
insane to think about. Half a decade and still be the same age that Mesidor is now. But Keldrick Falks, that Arik Armstead type, DeForest Buckner, where he can move inside to the interior, can also play on the edge, stop the runs there on the edge, create some havoc on the inside, has that size, that length. I think that's a guy DeMeco could definitely have some interest in, and he would be in that group of guys if you're moving up into the middle of the first round.
Yeah, he's another one of those dream candidates like with Ione and some of the different guys. Like he's top of the bucket in terms of like use flashing neon lights of all right, he's gonna come in, be an absolute just impenetrable force in the run game, get you
I
some
like it.
tackles for loss, and then develop as that pass rusher to complement Will. And he's young like that, and like I still think you can rationalize Messidor with the pick, especially if he falls to you. I wouldn't trade up for him, but like with where our timeline is, it works. But yeah, man, absolutely. I know Cassius Howe is a guy. It's not someone I would necessarily if he's there in the second, I would take him. In terms of, I know you're higher on Cassius Howe.
Yeah, I love his motor. And a lot of people
Hmm.
don't worry about that arm length at 31 inches at his pro day. But this is a motor guy. Like they're not the same guy, but they've got similar motors. When I talk about Max Crosby, a guy that a lot of sacks are just work, 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 work. He's got true bend, true edge speed, explosion, and he doesn't stop. So when I early in the process, I watched Cassius Howe and I said, man, I could see DeMeco being like, this is the guy that I actually absolutely love because he is relentless. He's going to consistently go foot on the gas all the way through. So I've got a first, second round grade on him. He's not going to be the force like a Keldrick Falk or a Zion Young against the run, but as that pass rusher, while you still got Hunter on the team for the next 2 years, you take Will
Right.
Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter off the field, and then you bring in Cassius Howe to give those guys a breather. He's wrecking havoc. There's no breaks throughout the entirety of it, and that motor is definitely something he likes. To your point, I think you hit the nail on the head with Akeem Mesidor. I've got him later in the first round, like Cassius Howe, where I've got a fringe first, second round on Cassius Howe. That age being 25 years old, but you said it perfectly, Josh, when you're talking about him being older at 25 is something that works for the Texans. So I don't think they rule him out because you're getting a guy that's pro ready, comes in immediately, and he can also play inside at D tackle. He can also give you depth at the DN position. And you're not talking about a 20, 21-year-old kid. You're talking about a guy who hits the ground running. So it takes you out of the market of having to go get that third DN in the free agent market that's pretty thin at this point.
Absolutely. All right, let's keep it rolling. All right. There's Blake Miller goes here. Jordan Tyson going all the way to 26. That would be a
If he's there,
situation where the hamstring is a bigger deal, and the agent did a great job of pushing up the narrative before draft. But why
yeah,
don't you get into talk about Blake Miller, because he's a guy that we've seen more and more getting mocked to us, even being traded up with the Panthers in a recent mock. I can't remember who it was, but one of these final mocks had him moving up. What are your kind of thoughts? I'm in a similar boat where I don't see him necessarily. I see him more of like a second round guy in a similar bucket to where Blake Fisher was coming out in a kind of similar evaluation. Obviously different kind of players, but kind of
sure.
where do you see and what's your kind of thoughts and concerns and positives with Blake Miller?
Yeah, I think with Blake Miller, a lot of people like him because he has that size. He has the length. He checks a lot of boxes, and then everyone talks about having 54 starts in college. So all the playing experience, a guy that can come in and start right away. I think he's a solid double. He does a lot of things well. I don't think he's great as a prospect, and I think he's probably a lot closer to his ceiling than some of these other tackle prospects. So with Blake Miller, I'm saying you're hitting a double. In the first round, what NFL teams go for is they go for those high upside projection type prospects. A guy like, let's say, the offensive tackle position. It's one of the most expensive positions. So if you're going out for these guys, rarely hit the market. Top end tackles rarely hit the market. So you can't really go out there and get these free agents. So if you're going to go in the draft to get them, you're going to typically have to go early in the draft unless you just get a diamond in the rough type prospect that really meshes into what you hope for. I don't think it's the smartest move to go for a guy that has a higher upside, that has a ton of playing experience, that's just going to be a solid pick. Speaking as far as the Texans, you've already got Braden Smith ahead of him. You've got Trent Brown ahead of them on the roster, to where they don't have to come in year one, and it's not an upside guy to where you're going to say, hey, we're getting a guy that's going to possibly be a $35-40 million a year tackle. You want to go and find that elite tackle, and that's more of a Max Ahanacher, or even after Max, I would say Caden Proctor as well. If you gave me two tackles, if the Texans are moving up to get a tackle, I say it's Monroe Freeland or Max Ahanacher, and I've got Max higher than Monroe Freeland. Even I've got him higher than Caden Proctor. And after all of those, I've got Blake Miller. I think he's more of a second round tackle, but I do believe he'll go in the first round, just because the fall off, as we talked earlier, after the first round tackles, there might not be another tackle selected until the fourth round. You're talking about 2 full rounds with no tackles going off. So if you want that guy for the future and you want to solidify it, go ahead and do it now. And if you got one of these prospects with tremendous upside, what team is built better right now to bring in a right tackle with potential upside with Braden Smith and Trent Brown on the contract? And you're saying, well, you've already got Braden Smith, you already got Trent Brown, you've also got Blake Fisher. Why do you need to go with another tackle? Is such an important position. And if you can book in tackles in Ariante Ursary, 48th overall, and Max Ionachor, even if they stay at 28 and move up a little bit, book in tackles back to back draft. Trent Brown's under contract for this year alone. Braden Smith is out of contract. He's in contract for the next 2 years, but his guarantee money, for the most part, runs out after this season. So you could move on from both of those guys after this year. And if that's the decision, are you comfortable with Blake Fisher? Blake Fisher's still young, still developing, showed a little bit of growth last year playing at left tackle when he had to step in, and also as the jumbo package, in the jumbo package. With 2 years left on this deal and every team needing tight ends, being a weak tight end class after the first round, you might be able to trade Blake Fisher and get him off that roster, because it's going to be a number game, especially if they draft like 3 offensive linemen in this class. You're going to have to look at a Blake Fisher, Jarrett Patterson, and maybe even a Jake Andrews. That might be a surprise for you, but those are 3 guys that, depending on how this draft turns out, could be playing for roster spots. Jordan Tyson, yeah, you mentioned it. A lot of people's worried about the injury history. If it's not for the injury history, that's the number 1 wide receiver in the draft.
Yeah.
Dude is just phenomenal, number 1 talent, but it is the injury history. If he falls to 26, I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans trade up. I just don't think he gets out of the top 10.
Yeah, he's not getting past 8 from what I'm hearing. Like if if he's on the board for New Orleans, they're gonna take him from what I'm hearing. I don't think he very highly likely the Giants, don't pass up on him at 5 because
Right.
they kind of are going in for Tyson and Downs. That was our
That's a nice 1-2 tandem.
yeah. God bless. I mean, if that hits, but yeah, Tyson's the closest. The way he moves is kind of Odell-esque a little bit, where he just glides out there. But yeah, this keep it rolling. Yeah, Blake Miller would be fascinating, but it would be more of just continuously raising the floor and just not just create. You basically, if you're drafting Blake Miller, I completely agree that you're giving up on, not giving up, but you just don't have that vision for Blake Fisher anymore, because I think people forget a little bit how young Blake Fisher still is, and he may even still be younger than Blake Miller. I'd have to
Nice.
check it out.
Right.
But so it's gonna be fascinating to kind of see where the vision is with Caley and kind of the new offense and what they think, because of him as like a future piece. All right, let's see. We're getting close. Let's see who the Niners go. Oh, Denzel Boston. All right, we're on. All right, let's see.
Texans on the clock here. Josh, guys I've got outlined here. Zion Young, Peter Woods, Max Ionachor, Caden McDonald, Caden Proctor, Brandon Cisse, Kenyon Sadiq went off. Sorry, I missed that one. Brandon Cisse, Christian Miller, Malachi Lawrence. And you see I've got asterisks here for Keelan Rutledge. I've got a 3rd round grade on Keelan Rutledge because I evaluated him as an offensive guard. As we've gotten closer to draft day, there's been a lot of buzz about him possibly being a center, and a lot of buzz even recently about him sneaking into the 1st round, and the Texans being mentioned as having interest in him. If it's at guard and the Texans go 1st round, I'll absolutely hate the pick. But if it's at center's their biggest need, but there's probably not a center you're taking till late 2nd at 59, but more likely 69 there in the 3rd round. So I think 69 is probably between 69 and 106 is where you're looking at center for the Texans. But Keelan Rutledge, and I didn't think about it until it got more recent, closer to the draft, to where he could be an option. Keelan Rutledge, if they're going to play him at center, I like it a lot more. And you're like, well, why do you like him a lot more at center than guard? Well, number one, the biggest difference is if you're bringing him in at guard, Josh, you've already got Wyatt Teller, who's a mauler in the run game but struggles in pass pro. Same thing with Ed Ingram. Same thing with Keelan Rutledge. If you used your 1st round pick at another young guy that gives you the same thing as Wyatt Teller and Ed Ingram, albeit younger, I don't think that's a value pick. Now, if you draft them at center, even though I think the 1st round's still too high for me, if you trade back and that's a guy that you get, you hit your biggest need at center. And even though he struggles in pass protection, now you've got bumpers on each side of you with Wyatt Teller and with Ed Ingram. You're like, well, you've got bumpers at guard. Well, not really, because tackles are kicking out so far. You don't really have the bumpers there. On the interior at center, you're more confined. You don't have as much frame to cover up. So the pass protection is not going to be as big of an issue, and more importantly, he fits that mauler mode. So you've got your mauler at center, both guard spots. Braden Smith is one of the better mauling right tackles. So you've got your identity. He makes sense at center. Not a pick I would love, but getting your biggest need there in the 1st round, and a guy that could be surprising and fits your identity on the run game at center. That's where Keelan Rutledge comes into the equation. But if they draft him at guard in the 1st round, or even at 34, if they trade back with Arizona, I'm not going to be a fan of it.
Yeah, it's the first time that he kind of jumped out to me and kind of thought of him as like a potential 1st round guy was Peter Schrager's first mock draft. He threw him in at the end, I think, to the Patriots, and they made the comp to Cole Strange when he was coming out as kind of a utility player. And man, I watched this really nerdy draft sicko level stuff, but I watched a video he did. I think it was with Brandon Thorne, where he did a real deep dive and kind of broke down film, and he kind of got inside of his brain and how we thought. I mean, he's the perfect combination of nasty physical and the high level mental processing, where you can see him move inside. Now, there's concerns where can he actually play inside at center with how fast everything goes? It's a whole different thing when you haven't done it. But there's a bucket of guys in this draft between him, a guy we'll probably talk about, Zune out of A&M. There's the kid out of Duke, Parker, who's a tackle that moves inside. Even I believe Dunker and Bo Stevens both took reps at Senior Bowl at the center position. So that's the kind of dream for me. I don't see any of these centers as like difference makers. Like they would be fine picks if we make them, but I want to go take a swing. When you have all these veterans, it allows you to take a swing on that upside pick at center. But that's enough center talk. Let's get into kind of
Right.
what the board is, and kind of where you're thinking. For me,
Yeah.
it's like three guys. It's Proctor, McDonald, and Hanacher. And I'm curious. Break down. I know we're both pretty high on Max Ionacher. But how do you compare specific? Because this is a conversation that I think I heard Steve Minch talk about it. He was
Mhm.
having it with but he was talking about Proctor going all the way 6. There were some rumors about him going all up there, but he was arguing about Ionacher versus Proctor and everything. What are your kind of thoughts on Proctor versus Ionacher and kind of this position, if this is how the board kind of fell?
Well, let's stay with the same analogy. If Caden Proctor, I mean, if Blake Miller's that solid double, where I don't think you're getting a single, I don't think you're getting a triple out of him. I think you're getting that solid double. Caden Proctor's a guy I think you could get a home run or you could get a single. And so
Mhm.
that's where that fear factor comes in. And his evaluations are all over the board. I'm not sure where he's going to go. Probably one of the bigger wild card in the first round. I don't like the margin of error. And people always say, we've never seen a guy like this. No, Caden Proctor reminds me of Cordy Glenn, who came out in the draft and people's like, he's too big. He's going to have to kick inside the guard. And he played left tackle for the bulk of his career. A lot of people say Caden Proctor, I don't like, he's going to probably have to move inside the guard. I think he can play tackle. I think he can play guard. So there's a multitude of options there. But for his physical skill set and to not have put it all together in college, there's a little bit more of a concern there for me. Max Ihanachour, I can't probably the last time I've mocked a guy this heavily from January all the way up until the draft was another tackle, Titus Howard. I had Titus Howard in January when people had third round grades on him. I had him February, March, April. I said, I love Titus Howard. And everybody's like Andre Dillard, even to the point when the Eagles traded up ahead of the Texans and took Andre Dillard. Texans fans were upset. Eagles fans were razzing them. And I said, no, I think the Texans really wanted Titus Howard all along. Spoke with people inside that building and said Titus Howard was the target all the way along. And it surprised me because, I mean, to be in that much unison with the team at that point. Well, since January, since I watched this guy, I just loved him more and more and more. And I said, this guy in January, I said, this is a top 25 prospect. My biggest question is, I don't think he makes it to 28. And so Max Ionichor would be my pick because I think this guy has the potential to be the best offensive tackle in the draft. You can throw in Malinois, you can throw in Spencer Fano, Monroe Freeland, all of those guys. But if you said, Jason, take your life savings, you got to pick one guy to be the best offensive tackle to come out of this class. I'm putting my money on Max Ihanacho. I absolutely love this guy. Even with Titus, I don't think I mocked him over 90% of the times to the Texans. That's just how much I love the fit. Having Braden Smith and Trent Brown already on the roster where he doesn't have to start. It's just a perfect scenario. The fall off on tackles after the excuse me, after the first round just makes the most sense. So we'll look at the rest of the guys I've got outlined here. Zion Young, I think he's undersold. Love Zion Young. I think the character concerns are real as far as the DUI in December. And so, again, once we start talking about character and medical, I don't interview these guys. I don't have doctors that check them out. So I trust the Texans with that. Zion Young's a guy I'm considering here. Peter Woods is a top 20 prospect. I actually have him higher than Max Ihanachour. Uh, and people are like, well, his production was down. Go look at Demarcus Lawrence, not Demarcus Lawrence, excuse me. Just the Giants just traded him. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Another
Dexter
Clemson.
Lawrence. Dexter
Thank you.
Lawrence.
Yeah,
Big
Dexter
Dex.
Lawrence just got traded for the 10th pick in this draft. His freshman year was phenomenal at Clemson, and then the production fell off the map his second year. Third year was even down from his first year. But this guy, was just a phenomenal player in the NFL, just got traded for the 10th pick and got a pay raise as well. Clemson does some funky stuff with their defensive linemen. Peter Woods, phenomenal freshman year. I was studying somebody a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when Peter Woods was a freshman, and my eyes, I think I was studying Texans current player, defensive end Xavier Thomas, who's from my hometown of Florence, South Carolina. So full circle there. And my eyes just kept going back to this number 11. I'm like, who's this number 11? I go check, and it's a true freshman. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a top 10 pick. Then his sophomore year, they've got him playing around 320 pounds and got him playing all the way out to the 9 technique. Why 9? He's at 320 pounds and he's still getting the edge and getting inside. Powerful, kick him inside. This year, he drops weight down to about 300 pounds, loses about 15 to 20 pounds. They've got him playing as a true nose tackle. It's just mind boggling looking at the film 23, 24, and 25, how they used him, his weight. If the Texans pick this guy, DeMeco will figure out what weight he wants him at. And this is that 3 technique that is just going to be phenomenal and just completely wreck shop for the Houston Texans if they want to go with the 3 technique. And the reason I say if, Caden McDonald, DJ from ESPN. I don't want to massacre his name. I think DJ Bienemy. Again, DJ, apologies if I'm saying your last name wrong. But DJ,
no, I think you're right. I think you're right.
DJ from ESPN had an article. He's talking about how the Texans want to run more two high shells this year, and so they need that bigger body that can really cover guard to guard, maybe even tackle to tackle and shut down the run, so they don't have to commit the loaded boxes, so where they can really do what they want to on the back end. Enter Caden McDonald. Once I read that, I like Caden McDonald. I'm like, I don't know if he's the exact fit, but once I read that from DJ, and DJ's in the know with the team. He's got some sources with the team, Jonathan Alexander as well. And so I pay attention to a lot of other stuff. I don't recall DeMeco saying that, but I believe DJ's reporting on it to where I think he's getting that from a reliable source. So that really opens things up for not only Caden McDonald, but Kristen Miller, Lee Hunter, some different guys like that. But here in the first round, Zion Young, Peter Woods, Max Ionachor, Caden McDonald, Caden Proctor, you missed, Brandon Cisse. I've got Brandon Cisse and Colton Hood flipped. Most people have Colton Hood as that next corner that's worthy of a top, like 20th to 30th range. I think that's Brandon Cisse. Hasn't played as much time, limited experience, still young. When you look at the DeMeco type corner, he's got elite speed to cover deep. He's aggressive, explosive. He's going to come up like a Kamari Laster and really attack in the running game, not be shy about it as well. And I think his upside is tremendous. I think he's being undersold. Colton Hood's being oversold. I would flip those guys. Well, I'm looking at Colton Hood more towards the later second round. Don't expect him to get there based off the consensus. I think Brandon Cisse could be a steal for the Texans in the second round. Rounding it out, Kristen Miller, Malachi Lawrence, and we talked about Keelan Rutledge. So I've set the stage here. Josh, which way would you go here? We'll kind of go war room here to come together for the pick. Or is there another guy I'm leaving out that you're saying I would have him in the mix in the discussion?
I'm curious to your thoughts on TJ Parker, because he's another one of those guys in that same bucket as Peter Woods and Brian. This is going a little farther back with Brian Brzee.
Right.
All these guys, it seems like Clemson is where defensive linemen's development goes to die. Like, just it's insane how they come in and they have this upward trajectory, and all of a sudden something happens. And ever since, even with Venables, it was happening, but not as much. But ever since Venables left, it's been even worse to a point. But I think TJ Parker's a similar player where you plug him in the edge. He's an elite run defender, heavy hands, hits you in your mouth kind of player. But I don't know, like when you see him up there, like if some of these tackles weren't up there and Peter Woods wasn't still there, I would kind of consider him. But he's someone that I think's worth mentioning. Caleb Banks, if there wasn't for the foot and there wasn't injury concerns, he would be a guy that I would run the pickup. In terms of like just not many humans on the planet Earth can play and move and just have that upside. You talk about trying to hit home runs. Yeah, for me, this is really difficult because Ionachor doesn't give you really that guard tackle flexibility that
Right.
Proctor does. but I think Hunter, just the way he moves and the way he's able to sit in his stance and the way he slides and his balance, it's light years ahead naturally of where Proctor. Like Proctor is a guy who kind of clips his heels together at times, doesn't always play with a great base. I know I'm getting a little nerdy with it, but man, like
Right.
there's flashes there with Proctor that are tantalizing as hell. But it's similar like Monroe Freeling, where if you were to put on his bad plays, they would send you running and screaming and not really wanting to kind of entertain it. But for me, I think it's hard because I really like Peter Woods, but I think when you have with the way this draft is and you look kind of where you can get different guys, this is a Max Hunter pick all day.
100% completely agree with everything you said there. To answer your question about TJ Parker, I've got him a mid-second round. This was a guy that came into the off season before last year's college football season as a top 10 pick, like Peter Woods. I don't see the tools there. I think it's more of a power guy, a guy that struggles to get the edge and everything. Some other guys I've got ahead of him, Zion Young, Malachi Lawrence, including guys that's already gone off the board. I've got all those ahead of them. I'd also throw two more names, are Mason Thomas. I have it ahead of TJ Parker. And another guy I'm probably a round higher on than the consensus, a top 50 player to me, Deni Dennis Sutton. I think people are sleeping on him. And
Yeah.
so that's one of the reasons I wait on DN instead of going Zion Young or Malachi Lawrence here. I can get those guys 38, 59, 69. I can
Yeah.
get probably Deni Dennis Sutton, I can probably get at 59 or 69. Keion Crawford, I can probably get at 59, 69. So I pass on DN here. D tackle, Peter Woods was probably my pick up until I've read DJ's thought on it, just processed it. I'm like, man, if he's getting this from the Texans, and I'm going to trust DJ on this, I think, well, man, Caden McDonald makes sense there, but if I can get Kristen Miller at 38, Lee Hunter at 38, and like you mentioned, Caleb Banks. I've got Caleb Banks around the mid-second round because it missed the injuries with missed time with foot injuries most of last season. Foot injury this offseason, just working out the combine because his cleats were too tight. And I've heard there's even more. What I've been told is that there's even more. So a big man with those type foot issues, Caleb Banks would have been my number one D tackle if it wasn't for the foot issues. But with Kristen Miller, Katie McDonald, Kristen Miller, Peter Woods, and Lee Hunter all in this draft, I'm not going D tackle with Caleb Banks until all four of those guys are off the board there. So I can get D tackle later. I can get edge later. So we're going to skip that. Brandon Cisse, I think I can get him at value later. I'm right with you. Maxi Hanachor. The fall off at tackle, his upside potential, I'm going there all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see Parker. I see him kind of similar in that Blake Miller bucket where he's that double. What you're gonna get from him. He's gonna play his ass off. It's funny they both went to Clemson, but it's similar kind of thing where it's like that high upside that you can see some upside with, but it's not the same of like it. I feel comfortable if we decide to take him at 38 and they really like him. I think he would be a decent value there. I would love him at 59. I don't think he gets there, but let's see. All right. So Parker goes, McDonald goes, Miller's off the board. You're seeing that D tackle. Oh,
D tackle
run. Yeah.
Oh, Caleb Banks.
Let's see. Yep.
3 in a row.
Yeah, let's see. All right, this resume this thing. Sorry, glitched up for a second. Proctor goes. Man, if Proctor gets the 33, they're running around screaming.
I like Caleb Lomu a lot more than most people do. I actually have him higher by a little bit than Max Hanachor. That's how much I like him. I just don't think he's a fit for the Texans. He doesn't have that strength that you want. He's going to develop. But as a left tackle in the NFL, I think he could turn into one of the best left tackles out of this entire class.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Connerly coming out, where you don't see a ton of in the run game, but like there's some talented ability to mirror and slide and length, and he was at times better than Fano on tape. In pure pass protection, but it's just not the direction we're going. If this was 2 years ago with the Texans and they were leaning into bringing in all these receivers and trying to go more spread and different things, then maybe I would entertain it. But the way it's kind of built, unless you're going to completely commit to putting him at left, moving Ursary to right, and then really it puts even more strain on getting that other guard position to be really
Right.
high level in the run game. And I don't think that's where you need to kind of go at this point.
Yeah, and Pragon, I'm a little bit lower on him. I think he's more of a 40 to 60 type pick. I like
Hmm.
Chase Basantes more than Pragon as guard. Gives you better pass protection. Much younger. He's probably about 4 or 5 years younger than Emmanuel Pragon. I think he could sneak into the first round realistically. I don't think he makes it to 38 for Houston though.
Yeah, that's probably true with the size and explosiveness and everything and a mature guard like that. You know what the limitations are, but you also know what the limitations are, where it's like it's identified. All right, so Concepcion, Zion Young went off right before that would have been a great value at 38. And then this is the board. Oh man, this is kind of lining up perfectly for us.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about three guys we've just talked extensively, so I won't repeat a lot of it. I know I'm getting a little long-winded on this, but it's geek out time of the year. Pretty excited about this time. Three of those top four there. I told you I'm probably about a round low on Colton Hood, Peter Woods, Lee Hunter, Brandon Cisse. Peter Woods, Brandon Cisse, and I got Lee Hunter in that 36 to 50 range. So if we're looking at best available, this comes down to Peter Woods or Brandon Cisse for me. Lee Hunter still on the board. I could still wait at D tackle. There's some other cornerbacks later that's available as well.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm tempted to wait on D tackle because I've got a couple D tackles. I just love the value. People have them fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round. I've got them second and third round. I'm talking about Nick Barrett from South Carolina and Chris McClellan from Missouri. So it's tough for me to pass on Peter Woods, and I'm passing on him again. I'm I'm gonna have to take DJ off the Christmas card list. If his reporting's off on this, the Texans. But Logan Hall, let me go and say this right now. Logan Hall at three technique is going to have a career defining year. He is going
Mm,
to light it up for the Texans. I would love Peter Woods for the Texans there if they're going to run a lot of double three techniques like they've done in last year's. But I'm going to trust DJ's report and going back to I loved everything he said on his report there. Is if I'm going best play available, my pick's Peter Woods. So let me say that at 38, I think it's silly for Peter Woods to be on the board. That should be the pick, but I'm also really high on Brandon Cisse. I think he's a top 10, top 20, top 25 type player as well. And cornerbacks, there's guys throughout the draft. I just love Brandon Cisse, and I think he's undervalued. I'm going to go Brandon Cisse here, but we're in the war room. We're talking it out. One of us is Nick Caserio. One of us, DeMeco Ryans, both defensive player. You going between these guys? Is there somebody else you like?
no, for me, I would run it up with Peter Woods personally. I like Cisse a lot too, but he's a guy who's developmental, and you don't really see. I think the tiebreaker is you're in a championship window. Basantes is out there too.
Oh, that's
As
a
a
great
guy.
point. I forgot all about Basantes. Uh,
Let's see who
I
else.
got him
Army
at. I got him a
Saints.
little bit lower than Peter Woods and Cisse. Malachi Lawrence is still out there too,
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I almost forgot about Malachi. So I'd say Peter Woods, Brandon Cisse, Malachi Lawrence, and Chase Basantes. I have Basantes lower than these other guys, so we're going to go
Yeah.
top value here. I'm going to give you the pick. Um, we've talked it out. If they took Malachi Lawrence here, I'm like, lovely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I've got a
Yeah.
first round grade on Malachi Lawrence. If they took Peter Woods here, I'm like, how did you get him at 38? That's a steal. Same thing with Brandon Cisse. The consensus, though, most people's not as high as on Brandon Cisse as me. So I'll give you the pick between Peter Woods or Malachi Lawrence.
Yeah, I
Which one
mean,
do you
and
want?
I see it with Cisse where he's a fringe first rounder. I agree, and especially in the right scheme, it's really, really fascinating. Basantes is cool, but I think you can get he's a guy where if we hadn't gone offensive line first pick, I would really be thinking about him. I'm kind
And
of looking
Jalen Farmer
through.
is a guy. Jalen Farmer is a guard. I've got a second
Yeah,
round grade on, when most people
yeah,
have like fourth or some third. So we can go Jalen Farmer later, and I feel absolutely fine
yeah.
with it. But in the actual draft, you're hoping Basantes or Manuel Pragon uh, falls down to 59. If not, Jalen Farmer is in discussion there.
No doubt. All right, this go Peter Woods because
All right, we're going Peter
the
Wood. So
true
that takes us.
the true unicorns, like the most underrated unicorns in football, or is that pass rushing DT? And
I've got
you
him as a
got
top 20 guy. I think you find
yeah.
out what rate you want him at. Let him play in DeMeco's attacking scheme.
Mhm.
And for me, it's a no-brainer to me if DJ's reporting's off as far as wanting to get that one technique. But you could still double up on D tackles in this draft. There's guys available late, so we could still possibly revisit that as best play available late. But I'm with you. Let's go ahead and go
All right,
top-rated play on the board. We go Peter Woods.
beautiful. Yeah, and I don't doubt it. I think that too deep as we're seeing some of these picks go. Cisse goes after Colton Hood, Lee Hunter. He's interesting to me. There's some concerns. I would be okay with him at
You know
59.
what I
Not
see
really.
with Lee Hunter or Mason Thompson's a top 40 pick. I think he's a little bit under the radar here.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Chris Bell was when we passed on Omar Cooper Jr. We don't trade up for Omar Cooper Jr. there in the first round.
Hmm.
Chris Bell's the guy I was talking about. Him and Jeremy Bernard, but Chris Bell's the guy I think makes so much sense.
Oh,
Recovering from the injury. So you do have that concern, but with the multitude of young options you have for 2026, even if he's not playing at 100% in 2026, 2027, you got a guy that can be that yak weapon. You go watch him. He will take a drag route to the house. He's
yeah.
physical, built like an AJ Brown, Andre Johnson type. Physical, get him the ball underneath, let him create. That's that yak monster. Most people, I'm surprised he's going 43 here. Most people have him in the third round. So for the Texans, I start considering him around 59, 69. If they went 38, I wouldn't have no issue with it. But Chris Bell's a guy at wide receiver I absolutely love for the Texans. I think he makes a lot of sense with the way their roster is built.
Yeah, great minds think alike. I would run Chris Bell if he got there at 59. I think you really have to strongly consider because he just gives you something that you haven't. I don't think you really have ever had since Andre was here. I mean,
Right.
Nico does some stuff, but you can't really ask him to do it over and over again. With how much value he has as a deep player, having that secondary thing, R. Mason Thomas would be amazing to think about trading up for. I think he's underrated because of how he was just kind of the dude by himself there in that
Right.
scheme, but this keep it rolling. Let's see. Pons, bad dude.
Love it. Yeah, I love Pons.
Abney, let's see.
Love Keith Abney.
Let's see. Yakus.
I'm
Yakus is
not
really
big on
fun.
Yaquez, and I'm not
Oh,
as
really?
big. Yeah, I've got him as a third round. People talking about him sneaking into the first round. Jacob Rodriguez, same way. People talking about sneaking into the first. Jeremy Bernard just went off. Keontae Scott, I got more of a third on. Eli Stowers, I don't see it at all with him. Oh, Malachi Lawrence almost made it to the Texans at 59. That one's going to sting
Yeah.
a little bit there. If he would have made it 59, we could have just went home. At
Yeah.
28, 38, and 59, we could have just went. Joseph, I've got more of a fourth round. Chris Brazel's more of a raw prospect that they just love the measurables on.
Yeah.
Jadarian Price, I think he goes top 50. Jen and Dunker, I've got a third round on. So once you start getting, now we're starting to get to that range where I think people's boards are going to be completely different from all 32 teams. I'm giving you my thoughts on it. Other people are going to feel completely different. Now at 59, there's some guys I consider this high, but the Texans don't have to take because the consensus is much lower on them. Logan Jones, a lot of people want to say shortest arms of the centers in the draft, probably not big enough for power. I disagree. I think he can play in whatever scheme you want to. He gets out. When he snaps that ball, he's exploded and into the body of defensive linemen so quick. And you're running so many duos. So you've got that double team on moving guys like that. And with the way he explodes and gets into the body of these guys, he's moving guys. Logan Jones is my number one center in this class. Most people have him that third to fourth round range. So you probably don't have to go 59. Jalen Farmer, after you get past Chase Basantes and Manuel Pregnon, Jalen Farmer is my next guard over Keelan Rutledge, over Jennings Dunker. But a lot of people have him third, fourth round, so you don't have to go Farmer here. Guys that are
Oof.
sticking out. Basantes went off, right?
Yeah, Basantis went.
Okay.
Uh,
Forgot to take that one off. Guys, Jeremy Bernard went off as well. CJ Allen. I think was CJ Allen still on the board?
no, he went I think he went first round,
Okay,
like
I missed
into the
that one for a
first.
second. Oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
Denied Dennis Sutton is the guy that jumps out to me.
Yeah, that's my top two: Anthony Hill Jr., denied Dennis Sutton. I
Oh
think we
yeah,
can
Anthony
wait
Hill.
on. Yeah, so Anthony Hill, denied Dennis Sutton here. At the linebacker position, I still think they extend Aziz Al-Shai. I could be reading it wrong. Henry To'oTo'o, I don't think he gets extended. So you can go with either one of these positions, even though you did bring EJ Speed back. But you still got Jake Galde, is a guy that I'd consider at 69. Deontay Lawson. Some people have him fifth, sixth, seventh round, which is crazy to me because I see a little bit of DeMeco. Not to oversell him, but I see a little bit of DeMeco, Alabama linebacker, and Deontay Lawson. Bryce Betcher, the Houston Astro player. Let's get a little Deion Sanders down here in Houston. Haven't played for the Astros and the Texans like Deion did back in the day, and I think it was Brian Jordan as well. Played multiple sports. But right here, though, looking at my board, we got two names left in this bucket for 36 to 50. One of these guys fall down. Anthony Hill, denied Dennis Sutton. For me, I've
Mm.
got denied Dennis Sutton top 50. Have Anthony Hill around that same range, but I think we're starting to thin out on edge. I'd go denied Dennis Sutton here.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's it's curious. The another guy that's still on there is Keelan Rutledge. Um, it's really that's a difficult conversation because it's the upside. You're a swing of edge rusher versus this is where you kind of dream on that difference making center. That physicality. Kind of. What are
I've,
your thoughts comparing those two guys here?
yeah, if Keelan Rutledge is available at 59 and you're going center, I absolutely love it. If
Hmm.
you're taking them at 9, I don't think it's a horrible pick. I think it is at 28 at guard. I don't like it at 38 at guard. But at 59 at guard, I've got him early third round. I've got him ahead of Jennings Dunker. But I like Jalen Farmer more than Keelan Rutledge. But I wouldn't think it's a bad pick at 59. If you're taking Rutledge at 59 as a center, though, with the way their offense is built and what they're looking for, that's that final building block right in the middle that meshes with the other guys you brought back or either added to the mix there. So at center, it would make sense. Uh, I think we can wait on Jalen Farmer to get more guard value there. And I would say deny Dennis Sutton would probably be the guy I would go here. I've got him
Yeah,
as a top 50 player in this draft.
yeah. It's interesting. The Rutledge thing is interesting, but like you said, there's quite a few guard opportunities and interior guys that you can kind of swing on a
There's
little
guard
later.
options on day 3. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, right,
Inez Cooper,
absolutely.
Micah Morris. I mean, just Bo Stevens you mentioned earlier. There's some
Mhm.
different guys you get in fourth, fifth round. You're still considering in the at that guard position.
Yeah. All right, this go. I agree. You gave me the Peter Woods. I'm definitely doubling down with you on denied Dennis Sutton. That just get him in the building. You can kind of slowly develop him. You have that room, that runway to really take advantage of his like. If you guys want to freak out, look at his like RES and like all of his different kind of measurables. All right, let's see what's going on with this.
AJ Halsey.
Oh yeah, he would be perfect in this game.
I think Caleb Terry is more of a guard. Traylon Stoops is a nice guy. I think he's more of a third. Josiah Trotter is a linebacker I'm completely off on. I mean, I've got him
Mhm.
like I think as a fourth or fifth round. I think he's a two-down linebacker. Jake Galdi hurts. That's definitely a guy I'm considering at 69. So let's take him off, but we can look at some linebacker options later. Derek Moore's off. I've got him more as a third-round guy. So we're sitting here. Keelan Rutledge is still here. You can get your
Mm.
center there if you want to go center with Keelan Rutledge. Jalen Farmer would probably be my pick here over Keelan Rutledge if we're talking guard. And you still got all the centers. The reason why I say you don't go center before 69, there's 4 guys I really like, not counting Keelan Rutledge. Logan Jones. Oh my gosh, who am I forgetting? Connor Lew. And this is in order.
Yeah, pull it up.
Logan Jones, Connor Lew. Um, who's that third guy?
Sam Heck.
No, I'm not in on Sam Hecht at
Okay.
all. Uh, Logan Jones, Connor Lew, Trey
Jake
Zoon the
Slaughter.
third, Trey Zoon the third, and
Okay.
then that last one. would be later in the draft on day 3, like 5th round or so, Parker Brailsford. But those
Oh,
first 3 I mentioned, I think you can take any of those from 69 to 106. So
yeah,
I think you can even pass on center at 69. And at 106, if all 3 of those first 3 are still on the board, once 2 of those goes, you're looking to trade up. And I think you're probably looking, I think the sweet spot for centers between pick 80 and 90. So let's say Connor Lou goes off, then Logan Jones go off, then I'm trading up for a Trey Zune the third. You're talking about probably the biggest center in the NFL, played
yeah,
tackle in college, 6'7", 315 plus pounds, has feet for college tackle. I don't think he gives you depth at tackle in the pros unless injuries just tear through the position. And
right.
so center, I think you could look at a trade up from 106. I hope one of those guys fall for you. But right here, the guys, I would say the highest. Dang, Anthony Hill's still available, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
Anthony Hill would probably be the pick now that I realize that. Jalen Farmer, Malik Muhammad, Nick Barrett, Logan Jones, Keion Crawford, but we already took a DN. Eli Raridon is my number 2 tight end in this class. And I mean, people like I had Colton Hood and Brandon Cisse flip. I say the same thing about Eli Stowers and Eli Raridon. We're seeing Raridon more in the 4th round, Stowers in the 2nd round. I would flip those. I think late 2nd round, Eli Raridon teams should start looking at him. But there's still a multitude of tight end options, so you don't have to force it here at 69. We talked about Connor Lew, Oscar Delp, Chris McClellan, Antonio Williams just came off. Jonah Coleman, if you want to go running back.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
Keontae
I'm
Scott came off.
curious before you keep going. Like, do you have Jonah Coleman ahead of Mike Washington Jr. and what are your thoughts? Because
Yes.
this is something that flashes to me in terms of big body, downfield. He's a guy you can kind of develop. Doesn't have a lot of grind on the tire. This is kind of where I start feeling comfortable with him. I don't
Yeah,
understand like the second round look at him, but third round is where I kind of think about. What are your thoughts and
exactly.
what don't you like about Mike Washington versus, or I guess not necessarily don't like, but in comparison to Jonah Coleman?
Yeah, Mike Washington's not in my top 5 running backs. I know he lit
Okay.
up the combine. People love him. They love the size with the speed, the explosion, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's unique about Mike Washington, despite being that big and fast, he's so timid between the tackles. You don't see the physicality there that you see with Jonah Coleman. Jonah Coleman is my number 3, and I actually have him circled for the Texans to start showing interest at 69. But there's a guy I have as my 4th that most people have 6th, 7th round on. Jamari Taylor from Virginia. Not the biggest, not the fastest. This guy has
Yeah.
vision, he has contact balance, and you can get him on day 3. So Jonah Coleman, I think you have the luxury of sitting there, let the board fall. And if he starts falling close to the 106, you hope you can get him there. If you wanted to, you can pull the trigger at 69. That's the highest where I've got Jonah Coleman going. But if you miss out on him, I'm fine with getting the Jamari Taylor on day 3 at an insane value. So that lets me focus on tight end here. That lets me focus on guard here, or lets me focus on center here. So for me, we'll throw Jonah Coleman in there. I'm going to take Kieran Crawford off the board because we already went Dennis Sutton. And so I would say it's between Anthony Hill, Jalen Farmer, Malik Muhammad, Nick Barrett. I'm a lot higher on, so we can wait on him for a while. Logan Jones, Eli Raridon, Connor Lew, and we'll throw
Yeah.
Jonah Coleman in there. Any of those guys or somebody different you're looking at here on 60
Yeah,
at
it's
69?
what's interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts, is Skylar Bell. Do you see him as he's a guy that's more of it's projectable thing, smaller school. Do you see him kind of in this bucket as a receiver, or is there any receivers? Let me kind of look to like Surratt is there. He doesn't really give you. Is this a place where Zachariah Branch maybe you think about as that explosive element, or Deion Burks? Is this where you're thinking maybe receiver?
So out of those names, Skylar Bell's the one I would consider.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Sarras, more of that possession receiver. I think you've got a couple guys that do that for the Texans. Dejon Stribling is a guy that's completely
Mm-hmm.
rose up in this class that I like. I like him as a 3rd round guy, but there's like 2nd round top 50 buzz on him. If
Yeah.
he's available here, I think that's a guy, bigger body guy that has shake off the offensive line, has speed to win deep. I think here, Skylar Bell, Dejon Stribling, if you want to add that wide receiver, we could throw those 2 guys in the mix. And then
Yeah.
it'd probably be between Anthony Hill, We could wait on Jalen Farmer. We could wait on Malik Muhammad and Nick Barnett. And we said we could wait on the center position. So if we, as
Yeah,
we start crossing it down, I think you're looking at Anthony
yeah,
Hill, Jonah Coleman, or one of these wide receivers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, part of me really wants to pull the trigger on Rutledge, but I think man, you can't like the
Yeah, and
value.
Rutledge.
Yeah, Rutledge being there is interesting, but I think, man, the athleticism and the thought of really having that guy in the pipeline. Um, the other guy at linebacker that's similar? Really too. This is the last quick thing I want to ask you because this will be
Sure.
projectable later. Kyle Lewis and Kayshawn Elliott are two guys that have those plus athleticism traits. Has some really interesting tape. They're in from different angles. You're looking at them, but kind of where do you see them in comparison to Anthony Hill? Like where do you kind of have them stacked?
Keyshawn Elliott, I'm much lower than ever. I got a fifth round on him, I believe it
Okay.
was. I know some people have them third round, some I don't know if anybody's got second, but I've seen in some third rounds with them, a lot of fourth rounds with them. I'm more of a fifth with him. I didn't love his film. Kyle Lewis, I thought he could be a guy that you try to bring in to be that Jalen Petrie depth until the Texans went out and got a guy who went right around this area. I think he was almost the exact same pick here in the third round 3 years ago. Special teams guy, New England tried him at linebacker. They tried him at safety. Teams are going more towards those big, tight nickels and that star position. So looking for some depth at Jalen Petrie. I thought Kyle Lewis would be one of those guys you can consider, or a Jalen Kilgore, one of those guys. But when they added Martu Mapu, from New England just a couple weeks ago, I think it was. I think that's a Kyle Lewis type. And instead of using a top 70 pick there in the third round, probably where you'd have to select him here at 69, you get a guy that was selected at high a couple of years ago just for flipping sixth and seventh round picks in 2027 draft. So I could be reading it wrong, but I say Mapu takes him out of the market for Kyle Lewis. I'm not as high as on Keyshawn Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
I do start considering Deontay Lawson here. I'm a lot higher on him than most people. Bryce Betcher, I love as well. I think you can try to wait and see if you can get one of those guys. Caleb Elam's Orr as well. Those are three
Yeah,
linebackers that
yeah,
I love
yeah.
as well.
He's
I think you can wait and see if you can get one of those at 106. Maybe you get lucky and get one at 141. So here,
so wait. Who did you say you would select here?
it would either be between we can wait on Jalen Farmer, we can wait on Malik Muhammad, Nick Barrett, you can definitely wait on. There's still 3, 4 centers I like, 5
Mm-hmm.
counting Keelan Rutledge, so I don't think you have to force it here.
Yeah,
So I think it would probably be between Anthony Hill, you could wait on linebacker, or if you wanted to get your running back Jonah Coleman, or if you want to get wide receiver. Wide receiver is interesting because we've heard so much here in the last couple of days about the Texans being interested early in wide receiver. So maybe for the sake of argument, we go ahead and solidify with what the reports are saying and go for that wide receiver position. And I think you're
yeah.
looking at Skylar Bell or Deshaun Stribling,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me.
Yeah, yeah. Stribling would be interesting. Man, it's hard. We've saw Anthony Hill kind of go in first rounds for towards the beginning of this draft process. He kind of became the forgotten man. I think the
Well,
more I
let's
look
go
at
ahead
it,
and do that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
let's
the
do
highest
that.
one left on the board. That's the
Yeah,
highest
no
one left
doubt.
on the board,
Yeah,
left from that 36 to 50 bucket. So we'll go ahead and do that. There's linebackers you like later, but if you're going best value available, you get that guy out of the bucket you have there for 36 to 50. Skylar Bell, next pick.
yeah,
Romello Heights, a nice little edge. We've already gone edge in this. Mike Washington Jr., I'm a lot low on. Dominique Orange, uh, I think people are higher on than me. I like him. I have a third round grade here. Zachariah Branch is just more of the underneath type packages. I don't think he's the guy you add to the mix. Keelan Rutledge finally comes off the board. Some people probably screaming at us for not taking him as a center there, but we've got other options. Chandler River, Connor Lou. So now the centers are starting coming off the board. So we'll keep Sam Rouse. The tight ends are starting to come
yeah.
off the board. I think Sam Rouse is probably Max Claire's off the board. So now we're starting to see that run on tight ends and center.
Oh, yeah. No, no, I agree.
Uh,
This is another tier of tight ends where you start to get in. I'm surprised
this,
Max Clare took this long to go off the board.
absolutely.
And Sam Rash, kind of, especially the numbers that he put up. but I think
This is
that's
that 80 to 90 round I was talking about, Josh.
yeah.
Well, you're really going to, I think you need to move up for either that center. Oh, Jalen Foreman, that one
Oh,
stings.
yeah, that's
I
hard.
didn't think he'd go that high on this pick, but I love it there for him. Devin Moore's another guy I like a lot. That was one of my fallbacks there for corner.
Kyle Lewis finally going off the board. That's surprising. Oh, there's
Logan
your
Jones.
Logan
And
Jones.
so
That's
in the
tough.
real draft at this point, I would trade up right now. Keyron
Right.
Crawford already took them all. At this point, I would trade up, as I mentioned, that 80 to 90 range. This is exactly like how I expected to pay off. And I'd go
Yeah.
Trey Zahn the third. So right now, with us not doing any trades in this mock, I'm keeping my fingers crossed like Markel Bell. If you're not getting that tackle early, going in fourth round,
Yeah.
Demetrius Crownover, Travis Burke, Markel Bell, those big mass tackles. But right now, I'm looking at Trey Zune the third, and I'm like, all right, make it 7 more picks. Let's get the biggest center in the NFL.
Oh,
Has
I feel you.
position flexibility. I'd be happy if I'm the Texans that Sam Heck went off the board there to start the fourth round. Malik Muhammad, great pick there.
We're almost
There's
there.
Keyshawn Elliott.
Oh, thank God.
Brandon Thompson. And here we are here. We make it there. There's other options. Love Nick Barrett here. Love Eli Raritan here. Oscar Delp still there. Chris
Mm.
McClellan. Jonah Coleman would be great here. All that sounds good, but your biggest need is center. We
Yeah,
didn't
what is
trade
he?
up to 80 to 90. Trey's on the third still available, and
Where's
I'm
he at?
running the pick in to get that center before it really starts thinning out.
Yeah, let me find where they have him. Is he listed as a tackle here?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he's
probably
listed
listed
as a
as a
tackle.
tackle.
That's why he's bumped way down. That's awesome. All right, cool. So this take him. I agree. He's the one. He's the one positional flexible guy that just kept. Every time I would go through, it's like, oh, Brian Parker's nice, more of a wall off guy, not really a people mover. The fact that Zoom was able, with the limitations and length and everything and different things
Right.
he had, he was still able to be really highly functional and a quality player at A&M. Really makes you think that slide inside will work. So yeah, I'm there for it. Let's go.
All
Trey
right, and let's
Zoom.
look at our picks just to remind the viewers who all we've
Yeah,
selected to this point
let's
as
pause
well.
this.
Drew Aller, I know I'm going to upset some fans here. Once you hit the fourth round, I have a third on Drew Aller. Once you hit the fourth
Yeah,
round, I'm considering Drew Aller for the Texans. I don't
yeah,
think they'll do it, but when you talk about being able to make every throw, I know his footwork's bad. I know the mistakes are bad. I know there's a lot of questions with him. That's the type of guy that you want to try to mold, especially when you already have your guy in CJ Stroud. Davis Mills is not going to continue to sign 1 year extensions for the rest of his life. At some point, he's leaving. I'm not big on Graham Mertz. Drew Aller's a guy that you develop. CJ Stroud, if he falls off a cliff, you got insurance for this guy to try to develop. If CJ Stroud turns into your franchise guy and you sign him to this big extension, and then Aller gets in there and proves himself, you've got a tradable commodity. There's nothing more important than the quarterback position. I think once you get to that fourth round, Drew Aller is definitely a guy I would consider. But here, with us wanting to get that center, we decided we don't have the luxury to go for that position. So we get Trey Zune the third as center. We still need to get a guard in this draft. We need a tight end. We need a running back. What else sticks out to you?
sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, looking through, we got 2 D linemen. I'm happy with both of their upside. And we have Anthony Hill, upside Mike player, got an upside center position, got a tackle. I mean, all these guys you can see they have that ceiling of becoming real impact, high level, potential Pro Bowl level players with the talent they're bringing in. I'm thinking, let's see, the things that jump out. Tight end, 100% agree.
Tight end really
Running
jumps out as
back,
a sore thumb. Yeah, running back jumps out. Guard.
um, yeah. We haven't hit interior. We got Zune. Do
Yeah.
you see him as a center and guard potentially, or are you seeing more of a center
Yeah, I think he'd
only?
definitely be that guard, but I'm not big on Jake Andrews. I think Evan Brown gives you that depth at that center in both guard positions. So the what's it called? The play performance, the bonus that players get for the play time and all that. Jarrett Patterson hit it, so his contract has ballooned up to almost $4 million. Jake Andrews hit it; his contract's ballooned up to almost $4 million. Then you go and sign Evan Brown on a value deal. If you find your center of the future in this draft that's going to start out early, that could start week one, like let's say Keelan Rutledge, they love him, they go 28, 38, whatever it may be at the center position, then I would say they're expecting him to start week 1. If he's
Yeah.
starting week 1, then I think Jake Andrews might be the biggest surprise, but I think he's eligible for trade or cut. And I definitely think that with the way this is played out, with us getting Max Iannacho or Blake Fisher's eligible for trade, I think Jarrett Patterson's eligible for trade or cut. So those would be the 3 guys I'm looking at, with us looking to add 3 guys in this draft.
No doubt. All right, let's see what's let's get up to our pick and see what's available. I think also as it's going, like offensive weapon, we start
Oh,
seeing
there
someone
goes
that we
Jonah.
love. Oh yeah, that's about where he should go. You know, like the 4th round is kind of. Caleb Proctor was fascinating. If we hadn't gone DT earlier, I would have enjoyed his upside with the athleticism. Let's see. It's kind of high for CJ Daniels to me.
Ooh.
Deontay Lawson, that makes a lot of sense. Pair him with his old teammate. Stribling in the
There goes
4th is a
Stribling.
steal. That's a steal.
D tackle starting to run off. We got ours early. Chris McClellan, love him.
Absolutely. Let's see.
Billy Strauss, an under radar guard. That could have been a guy we could have took here as well. So we'll take him off the board.
Yeah, McAllis is another guy who's that upside. Man, some of his tape is crazy. There's a ton of shit.
Bowery.
Yeah.
If any tackle, if I was to take any tackle before the 4th round, any tackle on day 2, it would be Drew Bowery.
Yeah, Bud Clark going off really hurts me. I have a
Jack Andrews, another tackle.
Yeah, I have an unhealthy appreciation for his play. It's a damn good
Jalen
play.
Kilgore. That would be great backup for Jalen Petrie. If Petrie misses time, getting Jalen Kilgore would be a home run.
Oh, Bryce just went off at linebacker.
We got Anthony Hill earlier, so the Betcher and the Bo Stevens goes off.
All right, I'm curious to see what's available now. There's a lot of good guys went off. All right, let's see what we got. All right.
My highest guys, Nick Barrett, and this works out perfect for us because my highest guys, 3 of the 4 highest guys I have are tight ends. And what are we talking about sticks out the most, needing that tight end here?
Yeah.
So I've got Nick Barrett. Like I said, most people have him 5th, 6th, 7th round. I've got him as high as Texans, looking at him at 59. That's how much I love him. We already got our D tackle earlier. Peter Woods. We got our D tackle earlier. Wouldn't be upset if they double dip. Think it can make sense for Nick Barrett, especially how much I like him. Highest guy on the board for me. That being said, instead of double dipping, we've got a need at tight end. So let me give you 3 names. And if you like another tight end, throw it out there. There's so many tight ends in this draft. And I think that's why you wait to the 5th round at 141 here. Eli Raritan's my number 2 tight end in this draft. I think he's supremely underrated. Oscar Delp. I didn't see Delp come off, but I may have missed it. A lot of people have him in the 3rd round.
No, he's still there. He's way down on this board. Yeah.
And Joe Royer. Some people have Royer around the 5th round. I've got him more as a fringe 3rd, 4th round. I don't have Royer on the same level as Eli Raritan and Delp. I have Raritan higher than Delp. I'd say the consensus has Delp higher. So either one of these 2 is where I would go with this pick. What's your thoughts on this? And is there somebody that sticks out to you outside of tight end?
Yeah, I think out of those guys you just mentioned, I think I like the athletic upside of a Delp over the other guys.
You won't get a fight out of me. I like Raritan. Consensus is higher on Delp. Let's go ahead and go Josh Delp, right? Excuse me, Josh Delp. Let's go Oscar Delp here.
Let's take a quick look to make sure there's no one out there that like flashes out. You know, Emmett Johnson, he would be interesting. I think
Charles Dim is interesting as well.
Yeah. Good corner. Let's see.
J.C. Davis. You're going to like this. J.C. Davis, for me, is Titus Howard, but more violent in the run game. And so this is a guy that you can come in. He gives you depth at those tackle spots. He gives you depth at the guard spots. So if we didn't have the need for tight end, and this is about where I have him, that 4th, 5th round range here. And so I think J.C. Davis makes a lot of sense here. And then with you looking to probably carry 8 to only 9 offensive linemen on the active roster, J.C. Davis is a guy that makes a lot of sense. Reminds me of a lot of Titus Howard in the sense that he's in a guard's body, but can still play that tackle position in the NFL. But we took that tackle earlier. We got the center earlier. J.C. Davis, you can consider to come in and be that depth at those guard position and also give you depth at tackle. But I just think the tight end's the bigger need and the value's much higher at the tight end as well.
Sorry, I had myself on mute. My computer was about to. I didn't realize the charger wasn't plugged in all the way. That would have been disastrous. That would have been like Nick Caserio running out of the draft board for some reason. I mean, running out of the draft room in the middle of a pick. That wouldn't be good. One question I have for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You did you bring up? I know you mentioned. J.C. Davis. What are your thoughts on Austin Barber? Did you mention him?
Austin Barber is a guy I think he has the potential to develop in something. There's just so much inconsistency in his film.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is probably right around where you're going to consider him at.
Let me see.
Nate Boerkirk, Joe Royer. So you're really starting to get in that Eli Raridon. You're really Ephesian Prysock was a guy, if we wanted to do corner later, that would make sense as well too. Jeremiah Wright, one of those guards.
Yeah, that's the guard that I really think would be the guy that big, that physical. You kind of have to work on some things. You got to polish some things up. I don't think you take him here. I think he's more of a 5th rounder.
Yeah.
Maybe you take him in the 4th if you're desperate. I'm trying to look through here, see if there's anyone.
Damon Claiborne is another one of those running backs I consider when you're talking about adding that speed element to Woody Marks and David Montgomery. 4.37 guy. He's one of the guys. But I just think when you're looking at the best value pick here, it just looks like this is the sweet spot for the Texans to go tight end. With Eli Raridon, Oscar Delp, Joe Royer, Nate Boerkirk still on there. I mean, there's just so many options. But I agree. Let's go ahead and go Oscar Delp here. I'm higher on Raridon, but consensus has it Delp, so I have no issue with that. We'll go that route.
What do you, so specifically with Raridon, I know you're higher on him. What about him jumps out just real quickly?
Big playmaker. You're talking about a huge target that can inline block as well. What Notre Dame asked for him, he's able to pin the DNs, and he's able to really. If I was a zone team, I'm definitely taking Eli Raridon in the 2nd round because I think he's one of the best tight ends blocking in space. So if you're running some outside zone, you let him get out there in space. He's one of the most sticky, consistent blockers there. So I know the Texans are more power gap, but Eli Raridon to have that big of a target in the receiving game, he gives you a little bit of both. So in this class, I think you're looking for one of those guys that give you a little bit of both. Sam Roush makes a lot of sense for me. If you want to wait till later, because mostly, not that he can't catch the ball, but he's more of a predominant blocker, Will Kazmarek. I mean, this guy, him and Sam Roush, I think probably make the most sense if you're really looking to upgrade the blocking of that tight end position with so many teams looking to go more 12 and 13 personnel. So Sam Roush, but we're going a different way here. We're going to look for the guys that are falling, and I like the guys that can give you a little bit of both, like an Oscar Delp, Eli Raridon, some of those guys that can give you that inline block in, but also give you some playmaking ability there in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I went Delp. That sounds like you kind of check that off your board, and I think it's a good way to go at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're looking at guards. We're looking at running backs. Probably running back would be the next position. Once you start getting here, you're really starting to lean into best play available. J.C. Davis, a great pick there.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Demings, that's a good pick for Miami there.
Absolutely.
He's a guy who's just going to play a long time. Just solid player. It's not going to be great ball production-wise. Boerkirk, that's a classic Ravens pick. He just replaced
Jeremiah Wright. You was hoping he fell to 167, get sniped about 12 picks early.
Yeah, that's about the range where he
Le'Veon Moss, if you didn't have the injury concerns, I would be intrigued to see Le'Veon Moss with the Texans.
I would take him in the 5th if he, if you're really convinced about like the talent is there. Like it's 5th rounds where you can kind of take that gamble, I think. on a guy
Aiden
with that
Fish
much
is
talent.
another linebacker I like if you hadn't gone linebacker there. Diego Pounds, he might have to move inside the guard, but he fits with the Texans as far as getting one of those big, nasty guys that's going to beat up guys on the inside. But I think he'll probably need to kick into that guard position.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's see who's available. We have Katron Allen. Raridan is still there. I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't. When's our next pick after this? Let's see.
243.
Okay, so we got 2 more left. That's right. They have that gap.
So my highest graded guys are tight ends. You got Nick Barrett, Bryson Eason, Jamari Taylor, running back, Tyler Oyidium from
Yeah.
A&M, Travis Burke, Jake Slaughter. We already went center. Inez Cooper's another guard I like as well too. Parker Braceford. Jimmy Rolder's a linebacker I like, but we already gone linebacker. I think Caleb Elarm's or went off. Adam Randall at running back, Michael Morris at guard, and then the tackle Wills Kazmarek, and
Mm-hmm.
then fullback. Texans need a fullback. Nobody's talking about it. Texans need a fullback. Don't want have one on the contract for 2027. Riley Nowakowski. That's who
Yeah.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at 243. If he's able to make it there, maybe you move up a little higher in the seventh. I'm not sure where he's going. He's mostly viewed as a seventh round prospect, maybe a sixth. But I think that's your fullback there. Love him in that fullback position. Here, I'm thinking either running back or guard.
Yeah.
Let
Let's see
me,
running back who's available right now. All right, we got your
uh,
guy Claiborne.
Jamari
Uh,
Taylor's the highest one I got. I'm much
okay.
higher, probably about 3 rounds higher than anybody else on him. Damon Claiborne's one that I'm probably uh, around the consensus, maybe a little higher on. I think he's probably a fourth round guy to get him here at the end of the fifth. He's a steal. He makes sense as far as having that speed element when you're looking to add somebody else to David Montgomery and Woody Marks. So I think Damon Claiborne, Jamari Taylor, those two names we earmarked. Scroll down a little bit more.
Yeah. Let's see.
Robert Henry Jr. is a guy. Roman Henry.
Let's see if there's anyone else.
Yeah, I would. Adam
Oh,
Randall.
Adam Randall still being there is interesting.
Those would be I would say the top three names here. If you're looking
Yeah.
at running back for the Texans, I would say in my order, Jamari Taylor, Damon Claiborne, and Adam Randall. In
Yeah.
consensus order, I would say Damon Claiborne, Adam Randall, and Jamari Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I
All right.
think I think
Let's
probably Adam. There's some guards I would
yeah.
consider.
Let's see what's at guard. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do.
Guys I like Inez Cooper, Michael Morris. Trying to see if there's anybody else that kind of slipped.
Let's see.
DJ
Armaj Reed
Campbell.
Adams is fascinating.
Yep.
What do you think about him?
Jaden Roberts. A lot of these guys I group in about the same thing. Big
Okay.
bodies that can move. The consistency's not really
Right.
there. But I think all of these guys you start looking at around the fifth, sixth round. Jaden
Yeah.
Roberts, Inez Cooper, Micah Morris. And so any of those three guys I think you're fine with
Yeah.
at this point.
Micah Morris is fascinating. I mean, if you want to swing on a guy who's just an absolute
Exactly.
monster of a human.
Yeah, that's it. You're taking
Yeah.
the swing there. But with so
Yeah.
many of those guys, you kind of I would say out of this list, Inez Cooper is going to be my highest guard
Okay.
I have left, but you've got such a multitude of different options that you're like, all right, does Michael Morris turn into it? Does Inez Cooper? Does Jaden
Right.
Roberts?
Right.
I mean, there's just probably 4 or 5 guys where at that running back position, I think you probably start seeing them get picked off more there in the 5th, 6th round. So it kind of just
Yeah.
depends which one you wait on. At this
No.
point, I would say 5th round's a good value pick to get running back.
Yeah.
I would
Let's
go
go
with the
running
running back here. My pick personally be Jamari Taylor. I would
Let's
say
do it.
most Texans fans or most of the consensus would say Damon Claiborne or Adam Randall. I'm fine either way you want. I think you're good with any. They all three give you something completely different.
Yeah.
Randall's
Yeah.
that former wide receiver, 6'3", 230, big guy, can give you some tough yards, can catch obviously like a wide receiver out the backfield, so he can give you some different looks there. Damon Claiborne, that home run speed threat, 4.37 speed, adds that element to it. And Jamari Taylor's that guy, not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest. You may be even able to get him in the 7th round, but the contact balance, the physicality, the short yardage, the gold line, he's just a worker bee, and these guys are typically better than where they go in the draft. So you can make
Yeah.
the case for all 3 of them. I'm going to give you the call on this one.
Yeah, I think, yeah, Taylor feels like a guy, the more and more you watch him, just feels like he's earmarked to go to like a Rams team where he's
Nice.
just like
Yeah, like
knows how to play ball, just
Blake
like not gonna.
Corum,
Yeah,
Tyron.
right.
Yeah, I like that call. I like that call.
Yeah. This for me, I'm gonna go down. It's way down there. I'm gonna go Adam Randall. I think
All
you
right.
you you tap into a guy that you can kind of develop, and he's only got 1 year, very few bad habits to get rid of, and he's big. 4.5 it's fast. He's still getting used to his body being bigger, so I think there's more
And he's
explosiveness in
getting
there.
used to the running back position. I mean, the
Hmm.
guy just transitioned the running back. So different body types, different styles, but kind of like a Tyrone Tracy Jr., where you're switching later
Yep.
on in your career from, to that running back position. So I like it. The size, the wide receiver ability gives you a completely different element. And then we've always got the undrafted class to throw in some different type bodies and guys in the mix with this class. Before we
Yeah.
get to the last pick, oh, there goes Eli Raritan. Before we get to the
Yeah.
last pick, let's catch everybody up on the draft picks if they're just joining
Absolutely.
us.
Yeah. No doubt. All right. See, Max Ihanature, we went first round. Peter Woods, second round. Denied Dennis Sutton. We're just going crazy and the on the trenches and just not at all being comfortable with where we are and
That's
just
what the
resting
game's
in.
about.
Yeah, you can't expect 17. I mean, I can go on my whole rant, but I'm not gonna do it because we've been on there for a while. But the whole rant of like can't expect 17 games from Will, from basically I think it
Right.
was 16 or 17 from Aziz and from Hunter. You can't expect that. You got to continuously bring in young bodies that can have that upside. All right, so we went Anthony Hill 3rd round. Trey Zune went 4th round. Center of the future, center of the now. Oscar
Nice.
Delp, high upside player. That kind of Georgia was weird about his role a little bit. There's a lot more juice out that you can get out of the you can squeeze out the fruit or whatever the
I
saying
got
is.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, then Adam Randall's a similar player. There's a lot more upside out of there. You're not kind of gambling on a guy that's just like a college production guy. You're gambling on a guy that's young at the position, kind of develop
Right.
with that. So I mean, what positions do you look at? Is it offensive line? Is it guard here that you're thinking of?
Guard's what you're looking at. Um, Fullback, guard, fullback, special teams. But
Mhm.
on top of all of that, you're looking best play available.
Yeah, I agree.
And
All
so
right,
you're
so
getting
this,
this late to the draft. A lot of these guys are both. Most of these guys will be graded as undrafted free agents when you get to this area, especially in this draft. When you start getting to that 6th, 7th round this year, I think the
yeah,
depth's really through those first 5 rounds. Cream's going to rise to the top. Once you start getting the 6th and 7th round, I think you're looking at weaker positions in this class. I think you're looking at special teams players. Maybe you look at some specialists like kicker, punter, fullback, different things like that.
I agree. Oh, Caleb
Oh,
Elam
he was
Zor was
still on the
actually
board.
still he was out there. Yeah, that's really interesting. Let's
Joe
see.
Royer goes off. Jamari Taylor goes off.
Wagner, Coogan. Let's see who else we got. Let's see. Durant's interesting. He would be a fit within the scheme. Good athlete, smaller player, with explosiveness. Really looked good at the combine. Let's see.
Miles Ketzelman. That's enough. I mean, the tight end class is just insane when you start talking about the depth of it.
Yeah, the fact that they're still getting guys. Caden Curry's fascinating. A guy who just
Yeah,
kind of quietly got 11 sacks last year at Ohio
he fits
State.
into this class, the year of the short arm pass rushers. He's
Right,
just so
right,
many
right.
guys with just unusually short arms. So I think that's why he's still available this late. Xavier
Yeah,
Thomas, if you're looking for 4.2 speed,
yeah. That's a guy that I've been mocking a ton at the end of the draft. In terms of that returner guy, that
makes
yak
sense.
ability, kind of everything we talked about at the beginning. Tyron
There goes
Montgomery's
John Carroll.
fascinating. Yeah.
Probably been mocked by Texans fans to the Texans more than any other player
Right.
in the 6th, 7th round. Everybody's on to the John Carroll train.
Yeah.
Bryson Easton's underrated as
Yeah.
well, that D
Kendrick
tackle
Law, another
position.
yak guy, right?
Oh,
Let's
yeah,
see.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Styles. So, Nez Cooper goes off at the last pick of the 6th round. That's great value
Oof.
there. I think he's probably more of a 4th round. Jaden Roberts. So these guards are starting to really pick up now.
Let's see. Oh, Nick Barrett just went off.
Oh, I was kind of hoping. I was like, that's going to be my best player available. Like I
Right.
said, you're seeing him in the 7th round here. I
Hmm.
think that guy is worth a late 2nd round pick. I don't think he's going to go there.
Wow.
Doesn't seem
Yeah.
like anybody else is in there, but that's the talent. I'm not sure where I'm varying on this, but
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if he gets out the 4th round.
Yeah, he's one of those guys where the flashes are really good, and it's just a matter of the consistency and getting the opportunity within the scheme and everything. It's just wasn't. Oh, Harold Perkins would be that's a fascinating 7th round flyer. Let's
Parker
see.
Brailsford, there goes Tyler on your Didium.
Oh, Riley just went.
Oh, they just stole our fullback. What, 7 picks before? That's dirty work. Dirty work.
That's messed up. All right, here we're coming up on it. See
You
what's
know
what we
who's
have
still
available.
available? And we've already taken one tight end, but the best blocking tight end in the draft is still there. Click on tight end for me.
Oh
And I
yeah.
know we took Oscar Delp,
All right,
but
let me
when you're talking
see.
about getting the best tight end in the draft at the end of the class, or maybe I missed them.
Who?
Will Kazmarek from Ohio State.
Oh, let me see if he's all the way.
There it
No, he's
is right
down there.
there.
Yeah.
Wow. That best blocking tight end in the draft. Between him and Sam Roush, I just think they make perfect sense for the Texans. Let's earmark that and let's look at
Yeah.
guard. Let's look at guards that are
Yeah.
remaining, and
Let's
then
see
we'll look
what's
at
up.
best available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, interior. All right.
Michael
Let's.
Morris.
Oh my God. All
That's
right.
a tough call.
Talking about swinging on a athlete upside player that
That's it. That's what
that
you're
you know
doing,
he was
Ken.
he was coached well, right? Like
Right, right. So that's the
there's no.
thing. Oh man, they've got for Betchy, if I'm saying it right, they've got him really low. I think that's a
Yeah.
draftable guy as well. I think he could go as high as the 5th.
Let's see. Is there anyone down here that jumps out? No, not really to me.
Yeah. So, and let's see best available.
All
See if
right.
there's
So
somebody stick
we
out.
definitely
I
have
think-
Mike Morris or Micah
And,
Morris.
and Will Kazmarek, the tight end. I guess the scales tipped a little bit for. And didn't the Texans bring in Jalen Daniels?
Uh,
I did
Jalen.
not study this process. I saw some of his film when I was watching defenses against Kansas,
Yeah.
but a guy I respect a lot, Greg Cosell was
Okay.
just raving about Jalen Daniels as one of his favorite prospects. So that's intriguing there.
Interesting.
But I think let's
Let's
see.
see. Taylor Green is still there. That's fascinating.
Reminds me a lot when you talk about the measurables and styles and played quarterback at the same college.
Right.
Reminds me a lot of Matt Jones, the former Arkansas
Okay.
quarterback that moved to wide receiver in the pros and got taken in the 1st round by Jacksonville.
Right. Right.
What other
Yeah.
names? Let's scroll through these real
Let's
quick.
see. What do you
Eric
think about Cole
Gentry.
Payton while we scroll through? Like
I
he's a
didn't. A
guy
lot
that
of these later quarterbacks, I didn't really study a lot. I know a
okay.
lot of people are talking about him as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the draft, but I
Let's
didn't do a
see.
ton of work on him. Keegan Tross, that's a draftable guy. May move the guard over tackle.
Let's
All right,
see.
so I think at this point, I don't want to bore the viewers
Yeah.
too much. Getting too super nerdy on
Yeah.
this. It's intriguing to see what's available there. But for me, I think either double up on tight end and get the best blocking tight end
Oh,
in
you
the
know what?
draft
Let me
here
see.
towards
One
the end.
name, if he's
Okay.
there, receiver. Let's see. There's Malik Benson in terms of speed, but let me see. Yeah, Chris Barryon Brown is still out there as a
Oh
returner.
wow. I
That's
think this
interesting.
like if it got to this point, you're 14 picks away from the end of the draft, and this could
Yeah.
be said about a lot of stuff. But wide receiver being one of the deeper positions, you're usually going to see a lot of undrafted free agent signs. So at this point, I think you kind of risk it for the biscuit and just try to see if you
Yeah.
can get some of these wide receivers with speed elements or height, different intangibles, and see what you got with them and try to
Yeah.
get them on that undrafted market. For me here, I'd love the heart wants to go Will Kazmarek, but
Yeah.
you've already got Oscar Delp,
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, May, how did I forget his name? Mason Foster. Uh,
Foster Moreau. Foster
Foster
Moreau.
Moreau. Oh my God, my mind's going blank. We've been. I'm
So
getting
many
too old.
so many
Foster
names are going
Moreau.
through. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's overlapping. Dalton Schultz, Foster Moreau. We selected Oscar Delp earlier. You still have got Cade. Cade Stovers, and you got Brevin Jordan. So I mean, you've already got two guys competing, and that's if the Texans keep four tight ends and there's no injuries. You've got Cade Stover and Brevin Jordan competing for the fourth tight end spot. So
Yep.
I'd really want to go with Will Kazmarek and double up at that tight end, but I think you're deep enough there, and you didn't get a guard in this draft. We waited a lot longer than I typically would. Micah
Yeah.
Morris is the guy that I would go ahead and this late in the draft take a shot on and see what Cole Popovich could do with them.
Yeah. He just kind of fits the prototype of what you're looking for in this new like power based scheme. I agree. Let's do it. All right. Let's see. And it's the rest of it's only a few more picks out there. But yeah, I mean looking at it, I guess we can watch them. There's nothing. None of these names are gonna come off that are gonna be groundbreaking. But just quickly go over. It's got 9 picks
All right.
left. Kind of run through what we've last little bit of review.
You've got your
Um,
bookend tackles for the future.
yep.
And you don't have to force Max Iheanacho right out the gate. I'll go ahead. I mean, we covered a lot about it here, but I mean, just his upside, the level he's playing at already, having that
Hmm.
physicality in the run game and also being a quality pass protector as well. And then
Right.
for him to come in and still have that upside potential and not have to play year one, it just and combining it with the fall off at the tackle position after the first round. So I just think that's a home run pick. Let's switch every other pick. I'll let you go ahead and go with Peter Woods here.
Yeah, Peter Woods. He was our highest graded player in terms of PFF. We got an A on him. I mean, if you can get a guy that was projected to be top 5, 10 pick last year, and a school that's historically terrible at developing
Right.
defensive linemen when they need to make that next step going in the NFL, I think he's a slam dunk. If he's there at 38 and you already secured an offensive lineman in the first round, I think the values. There was a couple other guys on the board that I believe Cisse was there.
Yep.
Um, and that's really fascinating. But to me, Peter Woods slam dunk. What do you think about Denied in a sudden?
Yeah, this guy got a top 50 grade on. You may be able to get him at 69. I've seen him go as low in some mocks as 80.
Hmm.
I just think edge starts really thinning out. You can get some quality edges there in the third round, but for the guys I like, I really start thinking it. I really think it starts thinning out right around the Texans pick at 69. So I think at 59 or 69, you get an edge. And this mock draft, Denied Dennis Sutton falls to 59. I have him as a top 50 guy. I think he's an upside guy as well. Great upside. Now you bring him in to go ahead and be an immediate rotation guy, your third defensive end, upgrades that third defensive end position in a heavy rotation behind Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. And if he really hits his potential and develops into what he can be, then you've got your Danielle Hunter replacement
Yeah.
after 26 and 27 without having to go with a first round pick in a couple years. So you're banking on that for him.
Yeah, and you can I don't think you could have a better place for a person for him to learn under in Daniil Hunter and to develop in terms of the skills he has and the things that Daniil had to do in order to develop. Anthony Hill is a similar player. You bring him in, he does so many things really well. He's going to be able to go underneath the Z's, kind of learn from him how to develop. Even Henry Toa does a lot of the intangible things that really would allow Hill to kind of sharpen his brain and really kind of take advantage of his guy-given physical ability. And I think you finally have a guy in the pipeline at the Mike linebacker if this comes true. I don't know how. I like him dropping to 69 is
Right.
it would be insanely like crazy to me. But man, I'll take it. There's going to be some linebackers that are going to drop because the other guys, especially at the beginning of the third here at 69, wouldn't be, insane to me. What do you think about Trey Zune?
Yeah, Trey Zoom the third. We talked about that center run that you want to get that center between 69 and 106, in my opinion. Felt like the trade up spot was between 80 and 90. Same thing could be said about tight end. We saw that run on center and tight end around that range, but there's just so many more options at that tight end position. So I think you go like we did in this draft for that center, and you can wait like we did for Logan Jones, Connor Lew, or if it's Trey Zoom the third that goes off before them. I think all three of those guys, if you want to force the issue, you can take it 69. But I think the more calculated move is to wait to see after two of those guys go off the board, go ahead and move up for that third one before he gets selected. And you're probably going to have to move up in that 80 to 90 range. Everything felt our way without us having to do the draft. Trey Zoom the third falls to 106. I doubt he makes it in the actual draft, but whether he does or if they move up to get him, you're getting a guy played a couple games at center in college, but was mostly a tackle. He has tackle feet for college. And what I mean by that, especially with the Texans, we've seen guys in the past that played all five offensive line positions, and Xavier Suafila, Martinez Rankin, and Bill O'Brien would fall in love with those guys and thought that equated to the NFL game. Where it didn't with those guys is they were more interior guys. I would say the same thing for Trey Zoom III. But having college feet is really quality for a guy that's going to play on the interior, especially at that center position. So he'd be probably the biggest or one of the biggest centers at 6'7", about 315 pounds. So he has that size to really duo block with Wyatt Taylor or Ed Ingram and really move bodies. But then also with Wyatt Taylor and Ed Ingram also being weaker in pass protection, you get a massive guy here at 6'7" with
Yeah,
college
great
tackle
point.
feet that can mask a lot of the flaws in Wyatt Taylor and Ed Ingram's pass protection to cover up a lot of things. So I think that's just a quality value pick there.
Yeah, I agree. I think Trey Zune, that's a great point. His length next to a guy who's really undersized and Ingram, he's not as big as Teller, will help a ton as well. And allow kind of everything to settle in a really organic way.
Right.
Oscar Delp, won't go incredibly deep in him, just high upside tight end. I know he's a guy you really enjoy watching, and he's a guy I don't. Fifth round would be really special. Sometimes these tight ends go weird places though.
Right.
Sometimes they drop when they're not. We kind of the draft community or the media draft community tries to kind of pump a guy up, and in reality teams kind of view him in this kind of fourth, fifth round range. Sometimes they settle there but I mean I think he's a guy just a Swiss Army knife. He's kind of whatever you want to develop him as, he has the physical tools to do. So wherever you kind of want to lead him into, if you want to play him more inside as the Y, you could use that. You can use him as a move guy if you want to develop his arsenal there. There's just a lot of skill set there and a lot of athletic ability that he has the size and has the great coaching background at Georgia where we kind of went heavy Georgia at the end we went heavy with Georgia and a lot of and two Clemson guys as well, which is fascinating.
There you go. Best football's played in the South. Texans know that. Adam Randall had a couple options there at running back position. You go to speed element with Damon Claymore. Do you go with the big size of receiving ability in Adam Randall? Or do you go with the guy that's not the biggest, strongest, fastest, but just gets it done with great vision, contact balance in between the tackles, and Jamari Taylor? This mock, we decided to go with Adam Randall. Just really like the added element to get that size, goal line back, short yardage back, the receiving ability. You could bring David Montgomery and Adam Randall onto the field at the same time and motion Randall out into the slot. So many different things you can do, like the creativity that he would add to the offense.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think you really saw the light come on at the end of the year, where it was really starting to kind of slow down for him as he was
Absolutely.
going. His head was spinning early, and then Micah Morris, like guys watches some of his numbers. He was on the freaks list, I believe, at one
Oh,
point, or
wow.
he was in the honorable mention. He's just had some insane workout numbers. He's a guy you bring in 6'4", 330, played a ton of football at Georgia as a big, physical like tone setting guard. He's a guy that you just bring in with the program. Another Georgia guy, like we talked about, we're kind of leaning into. You kind of see we didn't really do it on purpose, but we go through the line of like schools we're drafting from, and they're all really tough mentality, kind of, building up. It's kind of going to hurt people's feelings drafting a Texas A&M guy back to back. But I think they'll get over it if it's Anthony Hill and Trey Zune. But I think Micah Morris is a guy that just getting him 7th round, great value. Plug it in, allow him to develop. If it doesn't work, guess what? You have the veterans in place where you can kind of grow. You can also go and sign another guy after free agency. after the draft, where you can get another depth potential guy that can kind of sub-plan and kind of allow you to have that flexibility in case. Because I agree. I'm trying to think where it would happen. Maybe Anthony Hill, at Anthony Hill's spot, we could have gone guard. I think Rutledge was a guy there.
Or Rutledge, Jalen Farmer, one of those guys there. You could probably switch that out for the linebacker.
Right, absolutely. But yeah, overall, it's funny. Micah Morris was one of. Let me make sure I download this. All right, downloaded. Yeah, but overall, I think it was long. I really appreciate. Let me stop sharing for 1 second if I can get out of this thing. Come on now. Oh, Lord mercy. Oh, there it is. All right. Back to here. Let me jump through, and I think let's see. There's a lot of, we appreciate you guys. Like, we'll try to run back, and when we do our draft after the draft, we'll try to hit on some of y'all's questions. A lot of great interaction with y'all, man. I appreciate 89 people watching right now. Really appreciate Jayson coming through and spending the time. It was a slog, but we knew 7th round mock draft right before the draft. There's a point where tomorrow a lot of these things that we're saying aren't going to really matter to y'all. So we're trying to just unload the clip on y'all, and you guys can go back and kind of listen to this. Oh, I remember these guys talked about this when this guy got drafted to whether it's the Colts. So we have to play them or the Titans or one of these other teams in division or in the playoffs. You'll have this kind of background information to look at, and maybe they'll help you with fantasy as well. In general,
and it'll get you through tomorrow. If nothing else, it'll get you through till tomorrow. I know that it's like Christmas Eve right now, Josh. Everybody's waiting, like, all right, one more sleep. And so maybe you wake up in the middle of the night, got them jitters, excited for it, if you're a draft nut like we are. So hopefully this will get you through the rest of the night. Or if it's something you're coming around late to it and watching it tomorrow, that'll eat up time on your lead up to the draft. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. I know we went a little bit long on it, but you do all that prep work. You really want to get out there, share your opinions, and get some feedback with it. So you can obviously hit Josh and myself on social media. We'll get some of your questions there, and I'm sure Josh will be commenting back to y'all's comments that came in through the chat. Apologies for us not being able to get into as much of the comments as the show was going on live, but I'm sure that Josh will definitely be able to hit it. And as always, we'll be able to catch up with you on social media as well. So thank y'all so much for everybody did tune in, and hopefully y'all enjoyed it before NFL Draft Day tomorrow.
Absolutely, man. Like you said, one more sleep. This is draft eve. I haven't heard a lot of people using that term, but that's how you kind of have to think about it. We're almost there, and it's not going to be, the one thing we know, it's not going to be boring in the next 24 hours with the rumors, and just be aware. Don't freak out with every little report, because a lot of this stuff is not coming from the Texans. Got to remind y'all that a lot of it is coming from outside sources trying to boost up their guy or create more of a market and everything. So just remember, before everyone freaks out on each little report, just remember Nick Caserio is an absolute elite drafter of players and evaluator, and I'm really excited to kind of see, and we really appreciate Jayson coming through, and just always a pleasure. And I'll see y'all next time, and really I hope everyone has a really good wind up to this draft, and God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all later.